Hogwarts, my spells develop infinitely. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26. Are all the new students at Hogwarts so crazy? Thinking of that scene, Charles' breathing became rapid. If this could really work, he would like to call himself a little boy in the wizarding world, playing with a nuclear explosion. Even wizards of the level of Dumbledore and Voldemort might be knocked down by this move. However, when Ciel asked Deep Blue how many points it would take to continue to deduce the apparition in this direction, Deep Blue's reply immediately sobered Ciel's excited mind. In order to ensure accurate positioning and safety, you cannot cast spells during the apparition process. A simple spell can cause the user to split into two parts. The more powerful the spell, the more dangerous it will be during this apparition. Even if you are lucky enough to survive, there is no way to guarantee the accuracy of the displacement. These are two mutually exclusive things, but if the host insists on deducing, the system can also proceed, but it requires at least 5 million deduction points. The number of 5 million points left Charles speechless. Even if Dark appeared again and pulled Charles into the dream world of Arlia again, Charles would probably have to wait on that beach for a few days to collect so many points. Not to mention, in the wizarding world, how many ones would it take to get so many points? Even if we count all the ones ever made by the Ollivander family, it still wouldn't be enough. This also made Charles sigh with regret and temporarily give up the ideas for the other subsequent deduction directions of the apparition spell, such as the flying thunder god that Ciel had seen in the anime. Those also all started at 1 million points, which made Ciel feel overwhelmed. Space-related knowledge is really useful, but it's also really damn expensive. He could only shake his head helplessly and no longer consider the 3 deductions of apparition in the short term. The results of these 2 deductions can be used for escape and fighting, and are sufficient for a long time. If you really want to continue to make huge improvements, you should wait until you have accumulated enough deduction points before moving forward in this direction. When thinking about the deduction points, Charles felt a headache just after deducing the flash spell. His total deduction points fell back to less than 30,000 points. It looked good, but it wasn't even good enough for a first deduction of the Patronus charm. Not to mention that Charles still has a lot of spells and knowledge that he wants to deduce. For example, transfiguration, one of the most profound subjects in the magic world, plays a vital role in exploring the mysteries of magic and enhancing strength in addition to the Horcruxes. The reason why Voldemort possessed such powerful magical powers was because he performed many dangerous dark magic transformations. In the 10 years after graduating from Hogwarts, from a handsome young man, he turned into a monster, neither human nor ghost, with the characteristics of a magical animal. But his magic power was so great that ordinary wizards could only sigh in despair. Magic power happens to be one of Charles' biggest weaknesses at the moment. He is still a young wizard. Although the spells he has are advanced and powerful, he finds it difficult to cast too many powerful spells due to his own insufficient development and insufficient magic power. If he could deduce the transfiguration performed by Voldemort, Ciel believed that his strength would reach a new level. Or if the animagus transfiguration was deduced, if it could be deduced to the point where it could transform into a magical beast, Ciel's magic power would skyrocket after the transformation. Therefore, Ciel will definitely be involved in the field of transfiguration. There is no need to elaborate on the profoundness of this field, and the consumption of deduction points is certainly indispensable. At the same time, Charles is also very interested in potions, alchemy and other fields. Magic potions and alchemical items are a major way for Charles to obtain deduction points. If I could master the methods of brewing potions and alchemical items myself, wouldn't I be able to be self-sufficient? You can even sell some to supplement your pocketbook. In addition, both potions and alchemical items can come in handy in battle in the long run. This will also be of great benefit to the development of Shire, so it must be put into the plan. But there is no need to explain the profoundness of potions and alchemy. Dumbledore and Voldemort both dabbled in potions, but when it came to making potions, they still had to rely on Snape, the potion master. As for alchemy, even though Dumbledore had made achievements in discovering the 12 uses of dragon's blood, he had not made any outrageous alchemical items. The only thing he could barely make was a deluminator. It can be seen that these 2 areas are also major consumers of deduction points. Not to mention that Charles was still thinking about Arlia and the so-called old ones. God knew how many points it would take to deduce the knowledge related to these aspects. With this calculation, Charles really had a headache. Poverty. So poor. The gap in the deduction points was so large that even Charles started to think about it. Harry Potter hasn't even appeared in Diagon Alley yet, which means there's still some time before Voldemort, possessed by Quirrell, breaks into Gringotts to look for the Philosopher's Stone. Under normal circumstances, if I were asked to take over Gringotts, I would definitely not dare to do so, but if Voldemort breaks through Gringotts' defenses on that day, I might try to get a piece of the pie. Thinking of the treasure stored in the underground vault of Gringotts, Charles' eyes became hot. If this business succeeds, the deduction points he will get will be enough for Charles to become rich overnight, but needless to say, this risk is naturally not very safe. Charles feels it is not safe yet. Fortunately, he still has some time before Quirrell takes action. I need to get as many deduction points as possible. I also need to get some information on wizard spells. Maybe it can serve as reference material and reduce the consumption of deduction points. If I can improve my strength to a higher level during this period, I will follow Quirrell and fish in troubled waters to break into Gringotts. After making such a plan, Charles finished all the 10 luxurious meals brought by old Tom in a flash, then stood up and walked towards Diagon Alley. As he passed the brick wall that Professor McGonagall said was the site of advanced magic, Ciel stopped. He couldn't help licking his lips to him, whose deduction points were running out. This brick wall was not just a brick wall, but a delicacy. Although there were a few figures in front of him staring at him curiously, and judging by their attire, they were obviously young wizards and their parents from Muggle families. Professor McGonagall was not there, so Ciel was not afraid of being discovered. The next moment, Charles walked towards the brick wall with a fiery face and kissed it passionately. Magic world, here I come. At this moment, the little wizard's parents standing nearby were watching the scene with a smile and talking in a low voice. Look at this child, he should be a Muggle born too, right? He's so enthusiastic and cute. Should we imitate him? Maybe we can take a photo here as a souvenir? While they were talking, Charles kissed another brick deeply. Hey, wizarding world, here I come again. Here I go again. I'm here again. I'm here again. The smile of the little wizard's parents slowly froze. Are all the new students at Hogwarts so crazy? I suddenly feel like sending my child to Hogwarts is a wrong start. Chapter 27. First meeting Hermione, looking for materials. At this moment, Charles didn't care about the strange expressions of the little wizard's parents, and was concentrating on looking at the brick wall of Diagon Alley. Every time he pulled a brick, the deep blue system in his mind would sound a prompt: deduction points +2, deduction points +3, even. Though the deduction points increased by a small amount each time, according to Charles' experience over the past 10 years, this was already much more than ordinary food. Just like the deluxe set menu at the Leaky Cauldron, the portion is huge, but it contains ordinary food. Even if you eat 10 servings, you may not be able to increase your deduction points by 2 or 3 points. In this comparison, the increase in deduction points brought by the brick wall is actually quite considerable. The most important thing is that this brick wall is maintained and cleaned up by the Ministry of Magic. Today, all the magic inside has been drained away, and the Ministry of Magic will replenish it in the long run. This will be a steady source of income. After passionately kissing every brick wall he could reach, the points in Ciel's mind increased by about 1,000 points. Feeling that the magic power inside seemed to be in danger, if he continued like this, he might not be able to open the door and enter Diagon Alley. Only then did Ciel reluctantly leave the brick wall. Just at this moment, a doubtful voice came from beside Charles. Charles Evans. Charles turned around and saw that it was the little wizard who had been looking at him in amazement beside him. Who asked the question? She has fluffy brown hair and slightly large front teeth, a bit like a little squirrel, and she exudes the aura of a top student. When he saw this little wizard, Charles had a familiar feeling. Could this be Hermione Granger, one of the Harry Potter triangle in the original book? But how did she know my name? And I seem to have seen her somewhere before? Soon, Hermione took the initiative to reveal the answer. She stared at Charles with wide eyes, her eyes revealing a keen desire to win. You actually received an acceptance letter from Hogwarts as well. That's great. I've always wanted to beat you. I thought I'd never have that chance after coming to Hogwarts. I didn't expect you to go to Hogwarts, too. Just wait, Charles Evans, I will never lose to you again in the wizarding world. Charles was stunned for a moment before he suddenly realized it turns out that when I was in the Muggle world, I participated in a competition with Hermione. Even though Hermione is a top student, she can never be a match for a guy like me who has so many cheats. So she's always thinking about defeating me once? At this time, Hermione's parents standing by also suddenly realized the strangely behaving child in front of him turned out to be the genius student Charles Evans that his daughter had been talking about all the time. Oh, that makes sense. Geniuses always have some quirks. They also extended an invitation to Charles. Ciel, I didn't expect it to be such a coincidence that you actually know Hermione. Would you like to walk around Diagon Alley together? When Hermione heard her parents' invitation to Ciel, her heart beat quick and slightly and a blush appeared on her face. She had been keeping an eye on Ciel ever since she was defeated by him for the first time in the competition as a top student. Hermione also has her own pride and wants to regain her status in the next competition. However, there seems to be a huge gap between a top student and a genius. In every competition, Charles crushes all opponents with an absolutely overwhelming attitude. Later on, the competitions that Ciel participated in were already at a level that Hermione could never reach from childhood to adulthood. This was the first time that Hermione was crushed by a peer like this, so she paid special attention to Ciel this time. Meeting Ciel in front of the brick wall of Diagon Alley really gave her a feeling that it was destined. Feeling Hermione's expectant and somewhat shy gaze, Charles smiled slightly and then refused decisively. Sorry, excuse me, I have some personal matters to attend to. Next time. Definitely next time. Then, Ciel waved goodbye to them, clicked the bricks, and quickly walked through the portal into Diagon Alley. Seeing Charles leave, Hermione's eyes showed disappointment, but she still managed to comfort herself. He must have something to do. Didn't he say that next time? I will definitely invite him to go shopping with me next time I see him. Having said that, Hermione still felt depressed even when she was about to enter Diagon Alley. She pressed harder on the tiles and an idea came to her mind. Maybe I'll run into Ciel in Diagon Alley later. And the next moment, something happened that made Hermione even more depressed. The portal that Charles had just passed through disappeared without a trace. This time the brick wall seemed to have some problem. No matter how Hermione took out her wand and tapped the bricks, there was no response. Is there any mistake? The last time the professor brought me here, he clearly told me that this brick wall was regularly maintained by the Ministry of Magic and there would be no problems. How come it went wrong now? Is this the result of the Ministry of Magic's maintenance? Hermione stared at the brick wall angrily, as if she had seen the epitome of the Ministry of Magic bureaucrats who were doing nothing and cutting corners at this moment. Hermione, who had suffered repeated setbacks, had an idea in her mind. If I become the Minister of Magic in the future, I will put an end to such things. At the same time, Ciel walked into Diagon Alley and had no idea that Hermione had such inner thoughts. After getting rid of Hermione's family, Ciel breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, I walked fast, otherwise I would have been entangled, and I would have been tied up and unable to do anything. As for Hermione, Charles quite liked this female character when he watched the movie in his previous life, but come on, no one would really bring their love for paper people into reality, right? An 11-year-old kid, dating? What the hell? Little kids of this age are full of trouble. Even Charles finds it annoying to be their friend. So which adult would like to take care of kids? Even at his old age, Dumbledore still liked to play house with children, and even set up various games with great interest. But Charles had no such interest. Walking quickly along Diagon Alley, Ciel soon arrived at his destination, Flourish and Blots. This place can handle Hogwarts textbooks. In the Muggle world, it is like Chinois bookstore. If you want to find any book, you can find a complete range of them. It just so happens that Charles uses deep blue deduction. If he has ready-made reference materials, he can reduce a lot of deduction points consumption. That was why Ciel came here in the first place. Before, with Professor McGonagall following him around, Ciel couldn't buy the advanced books he needed openly. Now he can do so freely. After entering Flourish and Blots, Charles quickly found the books he needed: Alchemy, From Beginner to Die, Potions from Beginner to Die, Transfiguration from Beginner to Die. In addition, there are some papers published by well-known wizards, for example, Dumbledore's 12 Uses of Dragon's Blood and Severus Snape's Wolfsbane Potion, a potion for suppressing werewolf impulses for which he was awarded the second-class Order of Merlin. The high-end achievements of the wizarding world in recent years have all been published in Flourish and Blots. However, this area is rarely visited, and many papers on the bookshelf have obviously not been opened for many years. There was some trepidation in Charles' eyes. He was also not sure whether these books and papers could really serve as material for Deep Blue. If this works, his deduction points gap will be greatly alleviated. After taking a deep breath, Charles carefully took out a copy of the 12 Uses of Dragon's Blood. I flipped through it casually and saw Dumbledore's detailed explanation of the magic of dragon blood. Then Deep Blue sounded one reminder after another. Obtaining materials related to dragon blood magic. The host's subsequent deduction points required for dragon-related knowledge will be greatly reduced. Obtaining dragon blood samples or even living dragons for verification can further reduce the number of deduction points required. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28. He is still a child. What's wrong with eating a little more? Exclamation mark. When the deep blue prompt sounded, Charles could not suppress the ecstasy in his eyes immediately. In order to further verify, Charles opened Snape's paper on Wolfsbane potion. After a moment, the deep blue reminder sounded again. Obtained materials related to werewolf transformation. The host's subsequent deduction points required for deducing werewolf-related knowledge will be greatly reduced. Obtaining werewolf blood or living samples can further reduce the deduction points. Next is transfiguration from beginners to burial, and a similar reminder sounded again, allowing Ciel to reduce a large number of points when deducing many basic and intermediate transfiguration spells. At this moment, Charles couldn't help but burst into laughter. It's done. I did it. He looked around at the seldom sought-after magic books and treatises in flourish and blots. These books, which seemed lengthy, boring, and difficult to understand to other wizards, were invaluable treasures to Charles, and could save him countless deduction points. Another idea came to Charles' mind. After all, the books in flourish and blots are aimed at the general public, except for those famous papers that have been published publicly. It is far from being the most advanced and precious magical knowledge. This kind of top-level magical knowledge is either in the restricted section of Hogwarts or in the family collections of various pure-blood nobles. If there's a chance in the future, I can search this area. Then, Charles called the bookstore clerk. Pack up a copy of these books and papers for me and send them to the second floor of the Leaky Cauldron. The bookstore clerk looked at the dozen or so bookshelves that were stacked to the ceiling with a look of astonishment on his face. Is this the way to buy books? Buy a dozen bookshelves at a time? After a moment, the bookstore clerk said hesitantly, "It's no problem to pack them up and send them to the Leaky Cauldron, but sir, these books are very valuable." Ciel knew this. Of course, books in the magic world have inherited the characteristics of the capitalist world and are extremely expensive every year. A large part of students' school expenses are actually spent on buying textbooks. In order to save textbook costs, many students from poor families choose to buy second-hand books. This is the case for textbooks, not to mention that the books in the area selected by Charles are all quite advanced, which makes the price even more expensive. This total number is indeed not a small amount, but what does this have to do with Ciel? He is not the one paying the bill. The kind-hearted Minister Fudge will reimburse him. After all, Minister Fudge signed a permanent agreement with Charles, reimbursing all of Charles' food expenses. In the wizarding world, books are spiritual food, so it is reasonable to use this reimbursement amount, right? If that doesn't work, there's no problem with Charles performing a book-eating performance immediately. Charles waved his hand and said nonchalantly, "Put it on the ministry's account. Minister Fudge will reimburse you." When the clerk heard this, his originally worried and suspicious expression instantly turned into surprise and respect. It seems that this little wizard in front of him has a close relationship with Minister Fudge. How could he be able to make the Minister of Magic pay for his crimes? He immediately promised that he would pack up the books and papers mentioned by Charles right away, and whispered that he would also give him a box with a traceless stretching spell. Even though this thing is obviously illegal, who made Ciel related to the Minister of Magic? Illegal things are only mentioned for common people. As for nobles and officials, how could they be without illegal items in their homes? Charles gladly accepted this. After leaving Flourish and Blots, Ciel immediately started shopping in Diagon Alley. After all, there are a lot of materials to reduce the consumption of deduction points, but this is a matter of cost cutting, so we still have to increase revenue and get more deduction points. So Charles swept through all the magic item shops on the street. It was not until the evening that Charles returned to his room in the Leaky Cauldron with satisfaction. At this moment, even the room where he had been cast the traceless stretching charm was almost filled with 20 or 30 large boxes, all of which were goods delivered by various stores. There was a fiery look in Charles' eyes. Although the magic power of these magic items is far inferior to that of the broken wand, such a large number should be enough to increase my deduction points again, plus the many materials I got from Flourish and Blots. I can save a lot of points on most common spells. If I digest all of them, my strength will definitely increase. I have to thank Minister Fudge. If he hadn't been so generous, how could I afford so many things? I really hope Minister Fudge can continue to work for a long time. I hope he won't be driven out of office. Meanwhile, in the Minister of Magic's office, Fudge was reading today's Daily Prophet, which contained a lengthy article praising the Ministry of Magic's follow-up handling of the Dark Seed incident. Providing lifelong food reimbursement for the little wizards who have been harmed is one of the few things Minister Fudge has done since taking office. Fudge smiled at this comment, with ambition revealed in his eyes. Of course he knew that he had a bad reputation in the wizarding world, but wasn't this the beginning of changing that reputation? From now on, I will climb to the top step by step. I want to become the greatest Minister of Magic in the history of the wizarding world. Fudge now recalled the deal he had made with Ciel at St. Mungo's Hospital, and his mind was filled with admiration for his own genius. Genius? I am a political genius. What does it mean to spend little money to accomplish great things? It's a huge profit, a huge profit. At this moment, Fudge's staff rushed into the Minister of Magic's office with piles of thick letters in their arms. Oh no, Minister, something terrible has happened. Hearing this, Fudge's face instantly darkened. Why are you so flustered? What's the big deal? The aide put the pile of letters on the table with trembling hands and stammered, bills, the expense reimbursement bills for Charles's kid, these are all. Upon hearing this, Fudge, who had been feeling like he was facing a great enemy, breathed a sigh of relief and glanced at his staff with dissatisfaction. What's wrong with you? Are you so flustered just because of a bill? I thought something big had happened. Let me guess. Is it that the amount of Ciel's expense reimbursement bills this time is particularly large? The staff nodded repeatedly, and he was immediately scolded by Fudge. I'm not saying anything bad about you, but it's the beginning of the new school year, and a muggle-born wizard from the Ciel went to Diagon Alley. He saw all kinds of delicious food, and as a child, isn't it normal for him to eat more and buy more? Besides, we saw it before at St. Mungo's Hospital. This child is simply the chosen Hufflepuff. His appetite is a bit big. It's normal to be a little greedy and buy more food at this time. The child is growing up, so is it a big deal if he eats a little more? Is it worth you being so panicked? Can he bankrupt our Ministry of Magic? You have to have a pattern, understand? Pattern. The aide was so ashamed after being scolded that he nodded in agreement. After Fudge had satisfied his desire to train people, the staff member said cautiously, so I will reimburse Ciel for this time's bill totaling 6,237 galleons. Fudge nodded calmly. Over 600 galleons? That's a bit much, but it's understandable. Reimburse me. Don't bother me with such trivial matters in the future. A moment later, when the aide was about to turn around and leave, Fudge suddenly reacted. His expression froze instantly, and he let out an unbelievable roar. Wait a minute, how many did you say? How much the fuck is this bill? Chapter 29. You guys are not taking kickbacks, are you? Transfiguration deduction. Fudge stared at his staff in a daze, the numbers they reported still lingering in his ears. Feeling unbelievable, he once suspected that his staff had seen it wrong, or that he had heard it wrong. More than 6,000 galleons. How did a little wizard spend so much? But after repeatedly confirming with his staff, Fudge still got this number as an answer. He staggered for a moment, then snatched the stack of bills from his aide's hands. I want to see what Charles bought that cost more than 6,000 galleons. As the bills came into view, Fudge's expression began to change. 80 servings of the Leaky Cauldron's deluxe menu. Wait a minute, 80 servings a day. Moon. Not. Damn it. Do you think I've never been to the Leaky Cauldron? That portion would kill me. Does Charles eat 80 portions a day? Even if he was feeding trolls or even dragons in the room of the Leaky Cauldron, it wouldn't cost that much. But this bill was just a small fraction of the total, as more and more exaggerated bills came into view. Honeydukes. Candy mail order, 100 copies of all styles. Hiss. Isn't he afraid of losing his teeth due to the sweetness? Didn't anyone teach him that children shouldn't eat too much sweets? Fuck, I've said it before. Dumbledore. The headmaster of Hogwarts always likes to eat some weird candies. He's a bad guy, and the children who haven't even started school have been corrupted by him. These bills were barely within Fudge's acceptable range then. The bills from Ollivander's one shop, Flourish and Blots, and many shops selling magic props in Diagon Alley made Fudge's face turn pale and his defense was completely broken. What the hell is going on here? Why is the bill for the ones so high? There are full 20 ones to be reimbursed. There are so many magic props, and there's even a book bill of nearly 3,000 galleons at Flourish and Blots. Damn it, the agreement we reached with Ciel only covers food expenses, not other expenses. How come the bill was still sent to me? At this rate, it won't be long before all our political donations are spent by him. Fudge stared at the staff member who was previously responsible for drawing up the magical agreement, his eyes full of suspicion. Did you leave a back door when drafting the agreement so that you could get a kickback? The staff was in tears. No, I really don't. Fudge looked gloomy. You didn't take kickbacks, believe it or not. I'll bring the truth serum over to ask you. The aide choked and said quickly, as for kickbacks, you also know this, Minister. There are very few people in our Ministry of Magic who don't take kickbacks, but the agreement with the Shire was so hasty, not to mention that Dumbledore was also present. I was only focused on doing my job, so how could I dare to do it? There really is nothing wrong with his magic protocol. Every time he submits an expense report, his true intention of purchasing the items will be checked. Even if he purchased food, as long as he's not thinking about eating it himself but sharing it with his friends when submitting the expense report, the bill will not be approved, Fudge demanded, frowning. Then, what's going on now? I won't count a leaky cauldron meal or Honeydukes candy. How can a wand be billed through expense reimbursement? 20 wands, and you're telling me he ate them like chips with salt and pepper and ketchup. There are also various props in the magic shop. He bought 100 speed writing quills alone, enough for an entire Hogwarts school. Did he buy them to eat like lollipops? Not to mention the books in Flourish and Blots. They cost more than 3,000 galleons. How many pieces of parchment would that require? Could Ciel eat them all? So, how did this reimbursement get through? The staff was sweating profusely. Perhaps he is truly a genius and has found some kind of loophole in the magic protocol. Check, must check. We can't let him use our magic agreement as a means to get free stuff. We must regulate his usage and make sure he actually eats everything he buys, instead of charging all his expenses to our account. Fudge nodded, a thoughtful look in his eyes. Of course we have to investigate. Otherwise, how could our family have enough money to afford to reimburse Charles like this? But I just used this matter to promote it, and it received unanimous praise from the wizarding world. This is not common after I took office. If we investigate this with great fanfare at this time, won't everything be in vain? Besides, Dumbledore was present when the agreement was signed. He would definitely protect the Charles. We also have to consider Dumbledore's opinion. Who to send to investigate is also a problem. After pondering for a moment, Fudge's eyes lit up and he thought of someone. I remember that among the graduates of Hogwarts this year, there is a disguised animagus who is currently training as a trainee Auror. Right. The staff member said hurriedly. Yes, it's a girl named Tonks. She was born with the ability to disguise herself as an animagus. She can change her appearance. She is a natural at hiding and disguising herself. Fudge clapped his hands. Let her investigate and secretly collect evidence to see if Ciel's purchase of so many things was caused by a problem with the magic agreement, and whether he ate them all. As long as the evidence is collected, we won't be afraid even if Dumbledore speaks. Besides, Tonks just graduated from Hogwarts. She's more like a senior of the Ciel than an Auror from the Ministry of Magic. With such an identity, it won't be too sensitive if others find out. The more Fudge thought about it, the more he felt that this was another stroke of genius. Let Dumbledore's people investigate Dumbledore's people. Am I, Fudge, really a political genius? The staff on the side also praised it highly, but still raised a doubt. But, Minister, it may take some time for Tonks to come up with the results of her investigation. What should we do if Ciel still uses this reimbursement method during this period? Fudge shrugged. Then there's nothing we can do. Let Ciel report it before we gather the evidence, but we need to urge the Malfoys to donate politically. A sneer appeared on his face. Who Gave them such a big handle? The slush fund is short of money, who else can we exploit if not them? Go and urge them to do it. Give them some hardship, and I'll take the blame. Just when Fudge and his staff were planning to investigate the affairs of Charles inside the leaky cauldron, Charles was holding a dozen quill pens in his mouth, sucking the ink from them like lollipops. When the frequency of the deduction point prompts in his mind decreased, he bit the feather pen in half, and converted the entire pen into deduction points. Then he casually took out some other magic props from the big box next to him and chewed on them at the same time. Charles was also reading the bulky book Transfiguration, From Beginners to Die. It integrates all the transfiguration content that students need to learn from the 1st to the 7th grade at Hogwarts, and covers all branches of transfiguration: disappearance, reappearance, human body transformation, animagus transformation, and summoning. In short, it is equivalent to a transfiguration reference book that is more complex, comprehensive, and in-depth than the textbook. If you read this book thoroughly, you will get excellent grades in all transfiguration examinations during your 7 years at Hogwarts. Even the new courses Charles had originally considered reading books on potions or alchemy first. After all, preparing potions and making alchemical items by himself could greatly increase his progress in obtaining deduction points, but considering that Quirrell will break into Gringotts soon, this opportunity to get rich quickly is not to be missed. In addition, potion preparation and alchemical item production are practical subjects. The principles will be explained in books, but the real essence is often passed down by word of mouth or even from hand to hand, not to mention the need to purchase various precious materials for the purpose of preparing potions, which cannot be reimbursed by passing the Ministry of Magic protocol inspection. Therefore, Ciel planned to conduct in-depth research in these two areas after he went to Hogwarts. For now, his priority was to improve his combat effectiveness. The field of transfiguration has a huge impact on the overall strength of wizards. An excellent master of transfiguration may not necessarily have particularly strong combat capabilities, but he will never be weak if one wants to become a top-level wizard. Transfiguration is an indispensable part. There is a very important reason for this, that is, many applications of transfiguration do not require spells, and sometimes even a wand is not required. For example, Sirius Black used the animagus transfiguration to escape from Azkaban even though his wand was confiscated in the original book, in the battle between Dumbledore and Voldemort. Both sides also had very exciting transfiguration attacks and defenses during this transfiguration duel. Neither side chanted any spells and the pace changed extremely quickly. If an ordinary wizard were to take part in this battle, he would not even have the chance to fight back, as he would be defeated on the spot by the fast, flexible transfiguration that does not require any spells. Professor McGonagall, who has always been modest and cautious, has also made such remarks in the field of transfiguration. She considered transfiguration to be more elegant and superior to the rest of magic. Professor McGonagall has never been an arrogant person. The fact that she could say such words also shows that the field of transfiguration is indeed profound and has a significant impact on the strength of wizards. Therefore, Ciel first opened the Transfiguration book to obtain materials. At this moment, even if he was turning the pages mechanically and quickly scanning every line of text to provide material for Shenlong, Ciel had already been flipping for more than 5 hours. Ciel finally turned the last page of the book Transfiguration, From Beginner to Die. In his mind, the reminder sound of the deep blue machine rang out. The host has obtained a large amount of transfiguration materials. The points consumed for the first transfiguration deduction have been greatly reduced. Do you want to spend 5,000 points to perform the initial deduction of transfiguration? When this reminder sounded, a fiery look appeared in Charles' eyes. You know, the first time the metamorphosis technique was deduced, it consumed a full 50,000 points, and now it has dropped too much. Although obtaining more materials can further reduce the cost of the initial deduction, the impact is not that great. Start early and enjoy early. Ciel took a deep breath. Deep blue, deduce for me. Chapter 30. I'm a trainee auror, can't I handle a little wizard? Following Charles's deduction, 5,000 deduction points were deducted. Then, Shenlong deduced the knowledge of transfiguration that the other party had just seen thousands of times in his mind. The so-called elementary transfiguration, intermediate transfiguration and advanced transfiguration, divided into 7 years of courses in Hogwarts, now appeared in Ciel's mind at one go and were completely connected. The knowledge that an ordinary young wizard needs 7 years to learn can be acquired in just a moment in deep blue. When Ciel opened his eyes again, transfiguration, which gave most wizards in the magical world a headache and even caused nightmares for many years after graduation, had become almost instinctive for him. The deep blue reminder sounded in Charles' mind as well. The host has completed the first deduction of transfiguration and has mastered the basics of transfiguration. It costs 50,000 points to conduct targeted secondary deductions on various branches of transfiguration: animagus transfiguration, human transfiguration, summoning, vanishing, apparition, etc. Obtaining the corresponding materials can reduce the deduction points consumed for the second deduction. Charles took a deep breath, drew out his mithril wand, and a strange look appeared in his eyes immediately. He waved his wand effortlessly, and a table in front of him began to change back and forth between various forms. Sometimes it was a cherry wood table, sometimes it was changed by Charles into a walnut pattern, and later it was even turned into a modern computer disk with a lift function by Charles. Then Ciel let loose even more, and with a wave of his wand, the table went from being a dead object to a living thing. It transformed into a brown bear, a tiger, a giant turtle, and even grew wings, turning into an eagle with a back big enough for a person to stand on. This wonderful feeling made Charles feel like he had found some fun toy. And he performed the transformation technique with great pleasure in the process. He truly understood why so many wizards praised transfiguration. Why Dumbledore, the most powerful wizard of this century, is also famous for his transfiguration. The mysteries of magical transformation and change contained in this subject are absolutely profound and mysterious, and it is worth it for wizards like Dumbledore to spend their entire lives exploring. After a while, Ciel stopped moving and waved his wand to return everything in the room to its original state. Charles was extremely satisfied with the results of his first attempt at metamorphosis. Although this is not like deducing a specific spell, such as deducing the luminescent spell into the eternal blazing sun spell, which gives Charles a decisive killing move, it is a huge supplement to his overall strength. After all, he can't just cast the eternal blazing sun curse at every enemy he encounters, right? Flexible and fast transformation is enough to solve most problems, and in the intervals between powerful spells, transfiguration can fill the battle rhythm, overwhelm the enemy, and buy time for yourself. Ciel estimated that his current transfiguration skills were far superior to those of the 7th-year graduates at Hogwarts who were studying transfiguration in depth, but it is still far from the level Dumbledore reached when he graduated. After all, Dumbledore's examiner at graduation exclaimed that Dumbledore used transfiguration to do things he had never imagined. Although the exact feat was never revealed, to be able to serve as an examiner for the transfiguration exam at Hogwarts, he must be a well-known figure in the field of transfiguration. Even he was so shocked. It is certain that at that time Dumbledore's transfiguration had far exceeded the scope of a student, and he could even be called a master of the new generation. Charles is still far from this level. After all, he had only integrated the content mentioned in the textbook through the initial deduction and turned it into instinct, which meant that he had already mastered the basic transfiguration technique to the maximum. However, he has not yet mastered all branches of transfiguration and is far from being able to reach the level of mastery. Looking at the secondary deduction hint given by Shenlin, Xiao's eyes showed a pensive look. Animagus transfiguration, human body transformation, disappearance, reappearance, summoning. There are so many branches of transfiguration. If you want to master all of them and even innovate and break through the barriers, the number of deduction points required is really astronomical. In the short term, I'm afraid we can only select a few areas for deduction. After gaining an understanding of transfiguration that surpassed most wizards, Ciel also had a clear understanding of the subsequent direction and academic frontiers of transfiguration. For example, the transfiguration spell of vanishing is a typical example of one of the most difficult spells encountered during the 5th-year assessment at Hogwarts, the vanishing spell. But the so-called most difficult spell is at best just an introduction to the vanishing and transfiguration spells, used to lay the foundation. If we extend this direction further and combine it with alchemy, we will have products like invisibility cloaks and vanishing cabinets. As for the direction of human body transformation, it could be the transformation of Malfoy into a skunk as demonstrated by Moody in the original book, but this is still very superficial. The truly advanced ones are the permanent transformation of the human body, which is the direction of transfiguration that Voldemort took. By permanently transforming himself, Voldemort gained special magical powers that were powerful, deadly, and menacing. Exorcism, that is, summoning and dispelling, should be the field that Dumbledore has specialized in. The golden flames he summoned and the lightning that struck Snape's wand were both the manifestations of his attainments in this field, and Grindelwald's terrifying fiend fire. In a sense, fiend fire and the various monsters it transformed into are also the product of summoning and transfiguration combined with dark magic. Ciel was thinking about the direction of his next secondary deduction of transfiguration. Finally, his eyes fell on the animagus transfiguration. The reason is not complicated, it is because there is a lot of public research data on animagus transformation. This is thanks to Professor McGonagall. As one of the few legal animagus, and also the professor of transfiguration at Hogwarts, she has produced several papers in this direction over the years, and under the leadership of Professor McGonagall, some other legitimate animagus also published papers. This can provide Charles with more sufficient materials in addition to this direction. If Charles wanted to study the advanced aspects of human transfiguration, it would inevitably involve the path taken by Voldemort. Dark wizards who follow this path don't write papers. As for the direction of summoning, Dumbledore and Grindelwald had already achieved success and fame, and it was long past the time to write papers. This kind of high-end information is really hard to find, or the materials in the direction of animagus are relatively easy to collect, and this path consumes fewer deduction points. Of course, animagus transfiguration also has a drawback, which is that its academic value is higher than its combat value. Animagus transfiguration is to switch oneself between wizard form and animal form. As for what animal one turns into, it depends on luck and personality. For example, there's a reporter named Licky from the Daily Prophet who transforms into a beetle, which is great for eavesdropping, but useless in battle. Professor McGonagall's is similar. She turns into a tabby cat. Maybe she can use her slender body to avoid spells in battle, but the value is still not high even for Sirius, who can transform into a big black dog. His fighting ability in animal form is still worrying. The masters of transfiguration in the magical world have certainly thought about solving this problem. The most intuitive idea is not to limit the transformation to ordinary animals, but to try to transform into magical animals. For example, turning into a phoenix, a fire dragon, an eagle-like beast. The power of these magical animals should not be underestimated. They can make the animagus transformed state no longer limited to academic research, but until now, this path has not been opened, and no one can perform the magical animagus transformation. But this drawback is the easiest to solve for Charles. He can do things that others can't do. Deep Blue, if we want to deduce the animagus transfiguration to be able to transform into a magical beast with combat power, how many points do we need? Deep Blue responded immediately, this direction requires 100,000 points. Naturally, Charles couldn't afford this amount. Fortunately, he still had several papers on animagus transfiguration that could be used as material. When he read all these papers and asked Deep Blue again, the points Deep Blue required were cut in half. The host has obtained materials of reference value. The points required to deduce this direction have been reduced to 50,000 points. If you want to continue reducing the deduction points, please ask the host to obtain a sample of a living animagus wizard. Given the particularity of this direction, acquired animagus wizards can only provide a few references. It is best to be a person with innate animagus abilities. There was a strange look in Charles' eyes. A person with innate animagus abilities? Does such a thing exist in the magical world? The practice of animagus transfiguration is very tedious and dangerous. How could one be born with animagus abilities? The next moment, a figure suddenly appeared in Charles' mind. Wait a minute, I remember Tonks in the original book was a disguised animagus. This is inherited through blood. It is an innate ability that does not require deliberate practice. Even her children will also gain this ability in the future. Does this meet Deep Blue's requirements? Then, Ciel frowned, but at this point in time, Tonks should have graduated and become a trainee Auror, and is no longer in Hogwarts. How can I find her? Could Minister Fudge just transfer her over to me? After a moment, Charles' frown relaxed. Collect some other animagus papers and materials to see if you can further reduce the deduction points. Then see if you can contact Tonks through Professor McGonagall or Dumbledore and find a way to meet her. If it really doesn't work, he can still barely afford 50,000 deduction points. It is also acceptable to directly use the second deduction to obtain the magical animagus transformation ability, and then find Tonks to obtain the materials before the third deduction. No. Hurry, there's still time. Wait a little longer. At the same time, in a training ground affiliated with the Ministry of Magic, Tonks, who has pink hair, is undergoing trainee Auror training, but she is assigned a task by the Ministry of Magic through her superiors. Let me investigate the freshman Charles Evans to see if he has abused the Ministry of Magic's protocol to gain improper benefits, and if there is anyone involved in profiteering behind the scenes. Tonks, eyes lit up with excitement. She had been a trainee auror for some time, and had been undergoing high-intensity and boring training every day, and she was almost bored with it now that the mission has arrived. I can finally show myself and give myself a break. As for the task itself, in Tonks's opinion, it was almost not difficult at all. With her animagus ability of disguise, the strength of an outstanding Hogwarts graduate, and the training she has received as a trainee auror, how difficult could it be for her to investigate a new student who has not yet enrolled? Tonks stated confidently, "I'm a trainee auror, can't I handle a little wizard? In 3 days, at most, I can investigate Charles Evans from head to toe without anyone noticing, and not miss a single secret." Chapter 31, Spying in Secret. We can't let Charles rob us, right? Please read on. After receiving this task, Tonks, who was determined to prove herself, immediately used her ability to change her appearance into a man, and then rushed to Diagon Alley from the auror training ground. With a loud bang of apparition, Tonks appeared in an open space in Diagon Alley, looking at the bustling scene of Diagon Alley with crowds of people and parents bringing their little wizards to shop. Tonks, who had just graduated from Hogwarts, felt a little emotional for a moment. Time flies by so fast. Another year of freshman enrollment has begun, but I have already graduated. Just as Tonks was sighing, she noticed that every store in Diagon Alley seemed to be out of stock this year, and there were long queues in front of the stores. But at the same time, the clerk was carrying boxes that were obviously cast with the untraceable extension charm and walking towards the leaky cauldron. Tonks' heart moved, and she was about to step forward to ask, but several wizards in black robes had already taken a step ahead of her and asked the shop assistants with curiosity, "Are these also what the little wizard from Ciel wants? There are so many things. How many gold galleons will it cost? How can he finish all the food and use it by himself?" The shop assistants smiled and shook their heads. "We don't know, but old Tom from the Leaky Cauldron said he delivers 80 deluxe meals to the young wizard from the Shire every day, and they're all gone in less than 10 minutes. He once suspected that the little wizard from the Shire had kept some magical animal with a huge appetite in his room. But it's none of our business. He's rich and generous, so we can just sell it." After answering these curious inquiries, the clerks from several stores continued to make deliveries to Shire. When Tonks heard this conversation, a look of determination appeared in her eyes. "No wonder they asked me to investigate. There must be something fishy going on with this Ciel. He eats and uses all these things by himself? How is that possible? It is very likely that there is someone behind him who is guiding him and has found a loophole in the magic protocol and is using it to profit from it." Tonks's expression brightened. In her opinion, anyone who could find a loophole in the Ministry of Magic's protocol must be a cunning wizard, who might even be a habitual criminal in magic protocol fraud. Ciel must have been used as a scapegoat by those wizards this time. Maybe I can follow the clues and catch a big fish. She clenched her wand tightly and felt her heartbeat quicken. After studying at Hogwarts for 7 years, he finally became a trainee auror. The time to achieve success is now. Tonks took a step forward and walked towards the Leaky Cauldron, intending to find an opportunity to wait in the Shire to see if there were any suspicious wizards entering or leaving the Shire's room. But in her excitement, Tonks did not notice that the black-robed wizards who had just asked the clerk glanced at her back secretly, their eyes full of confusion. That man just now seemed to have been standing nearby, listening to us getting information, and now he's heading straight for the Leaky Cauldron. Is he coming for Ciel as well? There was a dangerous light in the eyes of several people. "Come with us." But after a moment, disdain appeared in the eyes of several people. Not likely. If they were colleagues from Nocturne Alley, they wouldn't be so unguarded. He's probably a newbie who's only interested in money. His intentions are too obvious to be dealt with. He poses no threat to us. We just need to keep an eye on him. Soon, one of the wizards followed Tonks from a distance. He occasionally wandered around nearby shops, and occasionally greeted the little wizards and their parents who came his way, but he always kept a certain distance from Tonks, and finally stopped in an inconspicuous corner outside the Leaky Cauldron. The other wizards also looked in the direction of the Leaky Cauldron as they watched the large boxes being delivered to the Leaky Cauldron. Their eyes were filled with uncontrollable greed. Ciel has been spending money like crazy in Diagon Alley these past 2 days. I'm afraid he has spent nearly 10,000 galleons. Although he used the Ministry of Magic protocol for reimbursement, in the eyes of others, spending money lavishly is certainly a skill, but being able to get reimbursement is obviously even better. Such a little wizard must have an extraordinary birth and a profound background. In other words, gold is very valuable. Perhaps even more valuable than gold of the same weight. Just pick through any of his purses, and you might find it filled with endless amounts of gold galleons. These black-robed wizards in Nocturne Alley were very jealous and were planning to take advantage of Charles after doing this. Who would want to live a miserable life, with their head hanging on the belt? How much money can you make just by dealing in contraband items all day? But this Charles is really hateful. What's wrong with being rich? Does being rich mean you can disrespect others? He has to make the clerk deliver goods to him every day. This is exploitation and oppression. According to what I have heard from Muggles, he should be hanged on a street lamp. Will you die if you come out and collect the goods yourself? It's hard for us to kidnap you, now. He stays in the second-floor room of the Leaky Cauldron every day. This place is full of good and bad people. Tying him up here is simply seeking death. What should we do? After thinking for a moment, the leading dark wizard came up with an idea. Have you noticed that all the things that Charles bought are magic items? He basically doesn't accept ordinary items. What does this mean? It means that he has good taste and doesn't like ordinary things. He only wants magic items. If we can come up with a rare magical item or magical material, maybe we can lure him out of the Leaky Cauldron. If we can trick him into going to Nocturne Alley in the evening, then this thing will be a sure thing. For a few of us experienced dark wizards to subdue a little wizard who has not yet entered school, isn't that easy? When this proposal was made, the remaining people nodded in agreement, and then came to a key issue. Where can I find rare magic items and magic materials? Do you have? If we can afford the thing, why would we have to take such a risk? The leading dark wizard said in a decisive tone. We don't have that many gold galleons right now, but we can scrape together some money to get a mortgage at Gringotts. At worst, we can just mortgage our wands or our houses. Think about it. As long as we can buy rare magic items and materials, trick Ciel out, and complete this mission, what does this little money mean to us? At worst, our operation fails. We can just sell the magic items and materials and make a small loss, he said half-jokingly. It's not like we failed to kidnap someone and were robbed by Charles, so we lose everything, right? When these words were spoken, the other dark wizards all laughed. After the laughter, determination appeared in the eyes of several people. Done. I'm going to Gringotts to get a mortgage now. Chapter 32 Unicorn Horn. Who made me kind-hearted? In Gringotts. The goblin at the counter looked at the black-robed wizards outside with surprise and confirmed again. Gentlemen, are you sure you want to mortgage your property, wands, and the several magical items you have? If you are unable to return them by the due date, according to the agreement, all of them will belong to Gringotts. The dark wizard said impatiently. Yes, that's right. Don't ask any more. Just give us a mortgage of gold galleons. While waiting at the counter, they looked outside from time to time, appearing quite anxious. After all, who knows if there will be other colleagues who will set their eyes on Charles, the big fat sheep. If someone gets there first, then all their work would be in vain. When the fairy saw them like this, a strange look flashed in his eyes. It chuckled. Don't be anxious, gentlemen. Judging from your appearance, you must have a big business to do, so you are taking out a mortgage here. I would like to congratulate you on your fortune, but to be honest, the wand, the property, and a few magical items really can't be mortgaged for many gold galleons. Are you sure it's enough? After all, you are all big businessmen. If you run out of gold galleons and can't make ends meet, wouldn't that be troublesome? When several dark wizards heard it say this, they looked at each other, quite hesitant indeed. If they wanted to trick Charles out of the Leaky Cauldron and get him to go with them, they would definitely need something very precious. This kind of stuff can be found in Nocturne Alley, but each one is more expensive than the last. They were not completely sure whether the gold galleons they mortgaged could be used to buy such items. At this moment, an eager look appeared on the goblin's face. Well, we at Gringotts recently launched a new service called leveraged loans. This way, you can get far more galleons than usual. As for the cost, the interest rate will be slightly higher, and the consequences of not being able to pay it back when due will be more troublesome, but as long as we can pay it back, it won't be a problem. This is the best way to solve the funding shortage. Under the goblin's persuasion, the hesitation on the faces of several dark wizards gradually turned into determination. Indeed, as long as Charles was kidnapped, tens of thousands of gold galleons would be easily obtained. Are you still worried that you won't be able to repay the loan from Gringotts by then? Leverage, right? 5 times as much? No, 5 times is too little. 10 times, forget it. Just fill it up. Just fill it up. Soon, the dark wizards who signed the Gringotts agreement left Gringotts carrying bulging bags of money, with excitement and anticipation on their faces. With this money, we can buy some real good stuff to lure Ciel out. We're going to be rich. This evening Charles was still in the room flipping through the many magic books he had bought from Flourish and Blots from time to time. A deep blue prompt flashed in his mind, telling him that he had obtained materials in a certain field, and that deducing the corresponding knowledge could reduce the consumption of deduction points at the same time. Next to Charles, an assembly line was running. He created this assembly line using transfiguration, and the raw materials were vases, tables and chairs, plates, etc. in the room, and now, they have been turned by Charles into an assembly line that continuously transports the magic items in the boxes to Charles' mouth in this way. Charles can flip through books to obtain materials while swallowing magic items and gaining deduction points. This is so much more convenient. Charles couldn't help but sigh. Magic really does change lives, but the only pity is that these magic items are ordinary and common stuff. Most of them are shorthand quills or prank items like nosebleed nougat. The magic power is weak, and there is none of them containing powerful magic. Despite such a continuous input, Charles' total number of deduction points still soared significantly compared to before, reaching nearly 80,000 points. But thinking of the pleasure of drinking the sublimation potion in big gulps and feasting in the dream world of Arliette, Charles still felt a little disappointed. I don't know when I can go back to those days, Doc. My Doc, I missed you so much, and Arliette, the holy place of my dreams, please let me have another meal there. No, let me take another look. Just as Charles was reminiscing and sighing, there was a knock on his door. It was news from old Tom. Mr. Charles, there's a man in the lobby looking for you. He says he may have something you like. Charles raised his eyebrows, a thoughtful look in his eyes. I don't seem to know anyone in the wizarding world, and I don't have many friends. Are you coming to see me so late? He secretly became alert, but after thinking for a moment, Charles walked out of the room. If this guy can really come up with something that interests me, then it wouldn't hurt to meet him with so many cards in hand. Charles is not afraid of ordinary wizards even if the other party has any plans soon. Charles came to the lobby of the Leaky Cauldron and saw a middle-aged wizard who looked honest. The wizard's face was full of humility and shyness, revealing a feeling of flattery, and he looked like the kind of honest man who is often bullied. At this moment, the wizard saw Charles coming out, carefully took out a package from his arms, and said with a flattering smile, Mr. Charles, I heard that you bought a lot of magical items in Diagon Alley, and I remembered that there seemed to be a few things passed down in my family. I wanted to see if you were willing to buy them. As he spoke, a bitter look appeared on his face. It's embarrassing to say that my daughter is also going to attend Hogwarts this year, but I can't even afford to buy her a new wand. If you would accept my things, I could buy her a new wand and a new robe. Ciel listened to the words of the middle-aged wizard and nodded repeatedly, seeming to be moved. But Charles sneered in his heart. This kind of story worked in the 1990s, but he had heard this kind of story thousands of times in his previous life. How could it be so easy to believe it? He always believed that people who were truly suffering and distressed would rarely show their difficulties and pain to others. Generally speaking, if someone is eager to tell a stranger something like this, and it is related to money, 99% of the time it is a scam. Charles believes that there is truth, goodness and beauty in the world, but he is never afraid to assume the worst of others immediately. His eyes fell on the package. When the middle-aged wizard opened the package, Charles' pupils shrank slightly. There is a tiny horn inside. Ciel had read a lot of papers on animagus these days, and as the content of Transfiguration actually involves a lot of animal characteristics, Ciel could tell at a glance that this was the horn of a young unicorn, although it has been stored for a long time, and the magic power is far less than when the unicorn just died. This item is still a treasure. The most important thing is that the magic world passed a resolution a long time ago to prohibit the hunting and killing of unicorns for their horns, so unicorn horns are extremely precious and prohibited items. As soon as he took out this thing, Charles was completely certain that the honest middle-aged wizard in front of him was definitely not a good person. This unicorn's horn is clearly a bait to tempt me. It's really hard for the other party facing a little wizard like me. He actually took the trouble to set up such a trap, and his acting skills were pretty good. Charles' expression changed and he chuckled. Oh, this is the horn of a bullhorned beast. It is not worth much, but, sir, I do sympathize with your daughter. How about this? For 3 gold galleons, I will accept your bullhorn horn, and you can buy a wand for your daughter. Soon as these words were spoken, the middle-aged black wizard opposite him clenched his fists, a look of disbelief flashed across his eyes, and he was already cursing in his heart the horn of a bullhorn beast? This is clearly a unicorn horn. I bought it for 500 gold galleons in Nocturne Alley. As a result, this Charles said it was the horn of a bullhorn beast and only gave 3 gold galleons. Damn, this little wizard is even darker than the dark wizard. But this is also confirmed. This kind of shameless style must be from either aristocratic family, a big businessman, or bureaucratic family of the Ministry of Magic. After all, no normal person would do such a shameless thing. Then, the middle-aged dark wizard felt relieved. Fortunately, I pulled the lever at Gringotts and got some extra galleons, so I bought a few more things. Otherwise, just buying a unicorn horn seems to be insufficient to satisfy the greed of the little wizard Charles. Immediately, he pretended to be surprised. 3 galleons? That's great. This way my daughter can buy a new wand, but I haven't found the money for the new robe and textbooks yet. But I have a few similar things at home, all passed down from my ancestors. They're just bigger than this, so it's inconvenient to bring them over. Mr. Charles, my home is nearby. How about you come with me to visit my home? Charles sneered in his heart. It turned out that they were trying to trick him out. It seemed that I had attracted a lot of attention in Diagon Alley these past 2 days. It's really hard for the other party to plan like this. If it were another little wizard, he might have been fooled into thinking so, but Charles still had a question in his mind. The horn of a unicorn is very valuable. Even the horn of a young unicorn would cost at least several hundred gold galleons, and you have to have a way to buy it. It seems that the other party has prepared some other baits, which are probably no worse than the unicorn's horn. This would cost at least 1,000 or several hundred gold galleons. This is not considered poor in the wizarding world. Why would someone so rich take such a risk? But after a moment, Charles suppressed the doubts in his heart. Never mind. Since the other party has set his sights on me, wouldn't it be a waste if I don't take the bait? After taking a few pieces of magic materials like unicorn horns, the deduction points will definitely exceed 100,000, or even 150,000. In this way, even if we force ourselves to deduce the animagus transformation a second time, it will be more than enough. So Charles pretended to be hesitant, first pulled the unicorn horn from the other person's hand and stuffed it into his own arms, then thought about it for a long time, and finally sighed. Okay, I'll go with you and take a look. I can't help it. I am kind-hearted. The middle-aged wizard opposite him almost had his back teeth broken. You call this kindness? Good fuck your head. But he still gritted his teeth and squeezed out a word of gratitude. Yes, 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 Mr. Charles, you are so kind. Thank you on behalf of my daughter. But the middle-aged dark wizard had already made up his mind. As soon as Charles enters Nocturne Alley, he promises to let Charles know what cruelty is. Chapter 33, Acromantral of Venom, Dragon's Heart, Lucky Day. In Diagon Alley at night, the hustle and bustle of the day has disappeared, replaced by silence and desolation on the street. The middle-aged black wizard brought Charles to the entrance of a nearby alley. The signs and warnings at the entrance of the alley have been temporarily erased. At first glance, it looks like countless ordinary alleys, except that it appears particularly deep and secluded. But if some experienced wizards were to come here, they would probably be terrified by the sight of this alley. This is where all kinds of illegal transactions in the wizarding world take place, and it is also where dark wizards frequently appear. Nocturne Alley. Some of the wizards who accidentally entered this place left safely without seeing anything, while others escaped unharmed, but some of them have completely disappeared from the face of the earth at this time. The middle-aged black wizard brought Charles here and was trying hard to persuade Charles to go in with him. Mr. Ciel, my family is still waiting for galleons to buy a wand and robe for my daughter. You don't want to see your future classmate, a pink and tender little girl, go to school wearing an old robe that is ridiculed by others, right? Charles shrugged and said quietly, Is it possible that I will be one of those who ridicule her in the future? The middle-aged dark wizard choked and smiled awkwardly. How could that be? Mr. Charles is kind-hearted. You are a kind-hearted person. After hearing this, Charles nodded in satisfaction. You still have vision? Since you've said that, forget it. I'll just take the loss and take your things. Immediately, Ciel drew out his wand. The middle-aged dark wizard was startled. Mr. Ciel, why are you taking out your wand? Ciel chuckled and chanted the spell, fluorescence. A bright light burst out from the tip of his wand, illuminating the road ahead. He smiled. The road ahead is so dark, I'll cast a fluorescent spell to light up the road. I dare to follow you into this alley. Are you afraid of a little wizard like me? The middle-aged dark wizard thought so too. For a young wizard like this who hasn't even entered Hogwarts yet, the best he can do is cast a luminescent charm. How can he be a match for a vicious dark wizard like him? I'm afraid that the little wizard would be scared to death when he heard the 3 words dark wizard, so he grinned and complimented Charles. Mr. Ciel is indeed from a prestigious family. He is already so skilled in using the luminescent charm before he even enters school. His future is limitless. Soon, he took Charles and walked into Nocturne Alley step by step. At the same time, in the shadows not far away, Tonks saw the scene and heard the conversation between Charles and the dark wizard, and she felt anxious. She was a trainee Auror after all, so of course she knew where the alley that Charles entered was. That is Nocturne Alley, a place that most wizards in the magical world are terrified of. This is also the result of a compromise between the Ministry of Magic and the Dark Wizards, allowing the Dark Wizards to have a place to trade, and there is anti-detection magic in it, so it doesn't matter if the Dark Wizards rob each other in it as long as no unforgivable curses were used, or any cruel experiments were conducted. The Ministry of Magic would turn a blind eye and assume that nothing had happened after all. The group of dark wizards has always existed in the magical world and cannot be eradicated if a one-size-fits-all approach was adopted. They would be completely deprived of their places of trade and livelihood. With so many dark wizards scattered across the UK, the Ministry of Magic would be overwhelmed. Therefore, once entering Nocturne Alley, due to the anti-detection magic, if Ciel was abducted by these dark wizards, it would not be easy to find him. These dark wizards went to great lengths to trip Charles here, so their intentions could not be simple. Thinking of this, whether out of her own mission or her innate sense of justice, Tonks could not sit idly by and watch all this happen. Immediately, Tonks drew her wand and prepared to rush into Nocturne Alley to rescue Ciel. But the next moment, a binding spell flew from behind Tonks and hit Tonks, who was caught off guard. The dark wizard who had been following Tonks sneered at Tonks, who was lying on the ground. Idiot, you are so inexperienced and you still want to learn how to step on the ground. You are unlucky today. As he waved his wand, Tonks' wand flew to the side and the ropes wrapped around Tonks. A look of regret appeared on Tonks' face. How could she have imagined that she had been discovered long ago and was still being secretly followed by the dark wizard? It's all over now. Not to mention saving Charles, I might even lose my life. At this time, Charles, who entered first, had his retreat blocked by the middle-aged black wizard, and 2 other wizards in black robes appeared in front of him. He asked with a strange look in his eyes, "Where are the things I need to collect? Have you brought them?" The middle-aged black wizard behind him showed a sarcastic look. He didn't expect that Charles hadn't reacted to the situation and was still thinking about collecting his things. The 2 black-robed wizards also laughed. Here we are, our Master Charles, please take a look." Then, the 2 black-robed wizards took out 2 packages. One package contained a glass bottle containing a green liquid. The other package contained something shaped like a shriveled persimmon, but it was only about the size of a football. Charles narrowed his eyes, recognized the 2 things, and an uncontrollable look of heat appeared on his face. That glass bottle contained the venom of the giant 8-eyed spider, and there was quite a lot of it, which was an extremely rare magical material. The football-sized, persimmon-shaped object was actually a shriveled dragon heart. Although a long time has passed and it is no longer fresh, and there is definitely not a drop of dragon blood left, the value of the dragon heart is still quite high. These are precious materials that are difficult to buy through normal channels. Apart from Nocturne Alley, I'm afraid you won't be able to buy them even if you search the entire Diagon Alley. Ciel licked his lips. A bottle of unknown spider blood? It's disgusting. Give it to 12 sickles, and that, dried animal organs. You want me to buy that too? Forget it. I am kind-hearted. 1 gold galleon. Add the 2 together to make it a perfect sum for you. I'll take both of them. As he spoke, Charles took out 2 gold galleons and smiled. You don't need to thank me. It's our duty to help people in need, this time. Except for the middle-aged black wizard who had seen Charles's face before, the other 2 black wizards were also confused. Fuck, this is the venom of the giant 8-eyed spider. How did it become the blood of an unknown spider? 12 silver sickles? Do you even know how many galleons a pint of that stuff is? And this is a dragon's heart. How dare you call it dried animal organs? Just 2 gold galleons for the total? How can you be so ruthless at such a young age? Charles spread his hands. How can this be considered evil? I warn you, You are insulting my character. If someone else had insulted me like this, I would have fought him to the end and demanded mental compensation, but you guys are already in a difficult situation. If I do something like this again, am I still a human being? I am a kind-hearted person. I don't want any compensation. Just leave your things behind. Silence echoed in Nocturne Alley. The three dark wizards looked at Charles with a feeling of gnashing their teeth, as if 1,000 horses were galloping through their hearts. Is this what you call kindness? This is simply a waste of money. The middle-aged dark wizard who brought Ciel here could no longer bear it, drew out his wand and shouted angrily, "You damn little wizard, you termite, you vampire, you actually dare to say that you have a kind heart. I have tolerated you for a long time, too. Tell you the truth, this is Nocturne Alley. Haha, we tricked you here specially. You don't think we really want to give you something, do you? Wait and see how I deal with you." At this moment, at the entrance of Nocturne Alley, Tonks, who was tied up, was dragged in by the dark wizard who was following her. The dark wizard said disdainfully, "I subdued this idiot. He was still dazed when I knocked him down." Tonks looked at the four dark wizards in Nocturne Alley. The despair in her eyes became more and more intense. She couldn't even maintain the effect of the animagus disguise and returned to her original appearance with pink hair and a youthful and beautiful face. She stands out in Nocturne Alley. When the four dark wizards saw Twink's true appearance, they were stunned for a moment, and then they all laughed. "Okay, we thought it was a man, but it turned out to be a witch." Several greedy eyes roamed over Tonks. "You're really young. You just graduated from Hogwarts, right? Tisk, tisk, it must taste delicious. When we have enough fun, we can sell your parts for a lot of gold galleons. Merlin, you are so kind to us. Today is our lucky day." Listening to their horrifying words, Tonks' eyes couldn't help but reveal fear. If she really fell into that situation, she would rather be hit by a killing curse. Just when several dark wizards couldn't help laughing triumphantly, Charles looked at Tonks, whose hair color and appearance had changed, and he seemed to have seen something that surprised him. With such features, he is definitely an animagus in disguise. This is an important material suggested by the Deep Blue system, which can greatly reduce the points required for subsequent deductions of the animagus transfiguration. Ciel had been thinking of looking for Tonks later, but he didn't expect that by some strange coincidence, Tonks was actually here. He couldn't help laughing out loud. First, it was the unicorn horn, then the acromantula venom and the dragon's heart, and now here comes a disguised animagus. Merlin, I don't know if today is your lucky day, but it's definitely mine. Chapter 34, Don't Mess Around. Nocturne Alley is not a lawless place. At the entrance of Nocturne Alley, the laughter of Charles and those dark wizards echoed together gradually. The laughter of the dark wizard stopped. The four dark wizards stared blankly at Charles, who was still laughing wildly, and fell silent for a while. After a moment, the leading dark wizard shouted angrily, "Laugh, you're still laughing, do you know what's going on now? Let me tell you, this is Nocturne Alley. The laws of the wizarding world don't apply here. No one will know what happened here. If you hope that someone will come to rescue you if you delay, you are making a wrong decision." The four dark wizards had ferocious looks in their eyes and raised their wands at this time. Tonks, who was tied up with ropes, roared, "Are you crazy? Ciel is still just a child. If you need money, come to me, don't hurt the child." The dark wizard's eyes immediately fell on Tonks. "You?" Tonks gritted her teeth. "I am related to the Black family and the Lestrange family. They are ancient and prestigious families in the wizarding world. They are very wealthy, but have few heirs. I have money. If you want money, I can ask these two families to pool it together. Just let Ciel go." When these dark wizards heard this, they were overjoyed, and the ecstasy and greed in their eyes could not be suppressed at all. "I didn't expect you to be a noble lady too. I said today is our lucky day, but we can make twice the money. Why should we make less? We want both of you. No one can be left behind." When Tonks was filled with despair and racked her brains to think of a way to escape with Ciel, the four dark wizards raised their wands again and pointed them at Charles. It was at this moment that they saw Ciel also facing them with his wand raised. The dark wizards all laughed. "Oh, you are a very brave little wizard. You will definitely be able to go to Gryffindor in the future, but what are you doing with that wand of yours? Give us a firework display with a Loomis charm." A playful smile appeared on Charles' lips, even with a hint of anticipation, to be honest, except for the time with dark Charles had never used a magic wand in real combat with so many new spells deduced. Wouldn't it be a shame not to put them into practice? The next moment, Charles waved his wand quickly and said something faintly. A place without dust. The dustless land curse poured out instantly. An invisible magic field that was overbearing and repelling everything formed and spread out from around Charles at an extremely fast speed, enveloping all the dark wizards. The dark wizards saw the spell cast by Charles, but did not see any light from the spell, so they all burst into laughter. What kind of spell is this? Oh, that's amazing. It's really amazing. It must be a spell created by you, the amazing little wizard, right? It was so scary, I almost peed myself. But the next moment, when the field of the dustless land curse swept and spread, they wanted to knock Charles unconscious with a spell, but they were horrified to discover something. The magic power that was like blood and instinct had disappeared. Even their wands seemed to have turned into broken wooden sticks and were completely useless. They waved their wands in vain, but there was no response at all. Even the ropes formed by the binding spell on Twink's body fell down one by one. This scene made everyone present go blank in their minds, and the laughter of the dark wizards also stopped abruptly. But Charles hasn't stopped yet. After the clean land spell burst out, Charles waved his wand again. There was no sound, no chanting of spells, but with the waving of the magic wand, an extremely advanced transfiguration technique was performed. The ground under the feet of several dark wizards began to churn, and the originally solid bricks suddenly became soft and turned into a quagmire, trapping several people in it. The wands in their hands and the packages in their arms flew towards Charles as he waved his wand. Looking at the harvest in his hands, Charles showed a satisfied look on his face. 4 magic wands and 3 precious magical items. This is a very rich harvest. All this happened in a flash, and by the time the dark wizards reacted, only their heads were left sticking out of the mud. At this moment, they opened their eyes wide. The confusion and horror in their eyes disappeared, and then they understood one thing. Ciel, the little wizard who hasn't even started school yet, surprisingly has the power to crush them all. Even so, Charles pretended to be ignorant and followed them into Nocturne Alley. It was obvious that they were determined to rob them. For a moment, several people's hearts were filled with grief and anger. You, Charles, are so rich, but you still want to rob these poor people? Are you still human? He is like this at such a young age, rich but unkind. But after all, their lives were in Charles' hands, so they dared not speak out and could only speak humbly. Lord Ciel, this time we were blind and failed, but you didn't lose anything, and you even stole 3 precious magical items from us. Is that enough? The middle-aged dark wizard in the lead tried to persuade Charles to return the 3 items to them in a soft yet firm manner. We are all the scum of the wizarding world, but you still have a bright future ahead of you. How can you degenerate and become one with us, Mr. Charles? Robbery is unacceptable. Otherwise, if the Ministry of Magic finds out, and if Hogwarts finds out, your future will be ruined. Ciel raised an eyebrow. He didn't expect these dark wizards to dare to speak. He said jokingly, "Are you going to sue me for robbery at the Ministry? Aren't you afraid that your attempt to kidnap me will be known to the Ministry of Magic and you will be tried?" The leading dark wizard said with a firm expression. "We are familiar with the laws of the wizarding world. We did not succeed in the kidnapping. At most, it is an attempted crime and we will not be sentenced to any punishment. But, Mr. Ciel, you really did commit a robbery. If the Ministry of Magic finds out, it will leave an indelible mark on your future. I advise you to return the things to us. How about we just pretend that what happened today never happened?" Charles sneered. "Are you kidding me? Now that something is in your hands, you want me to give it back?" he asked calmly. "Since you are so knowledgeable about the laws of the wizarding world, I would like to ask you for advice. Is there a law to protect minors in the wizarding world? I am an 11-year-old kid who hasn't even entered Hogwarts yet. I accidentally killed a few dark wizards by over-defending myself. Will I be sentenced? You must know exactly what the Wizengamot jury would sentence me under these circumstances, right?" Charles slowly raised his wand, and the swamp continued to churn, causing the wizards to slowly sink. At this moment, it felt like 10,000 horses were galloping through the hearts of those dark wizards. Fuck, I forgot, he's 11 years old, one of the T0 in this version. Don't mess with him, the dark wizards cried out in fear as the quagmire gradually submerged them up to their chins. "Master Ciel, calm down. Calm down, it's not worth it. Nocturne Alley is not a lawless place. Don't mess around. We have relatives and friends in Nocturne Alley. All of them are powerful dark wizards, As soon as these words were spoken, the churning quagmire solidified immediately. Just when the dark wizards thought their warning might have worked, Ciel revealed an expression that made them shudder. Charles licked his lips, his eyes eager. Do you have any relatives or friends? Are they all powerful dark wizards? Good, very good, talented people. All of them are talented. What? Ciel, like most, is talent. Charles slowly grinned, looking at the deep Nocturne Alley as if he had seen a treasure trove. He pointed his wand at the dark wizards. Go, send a message to all the dark wizards you know in Nocturne Alley. Tell them there's an opportunity to make a fortune here. Your group can't handle it all, so tell them all to come over. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35, Reverse Cheyenne Gang. Little mice, I found you. When Ciel's words came out, not only the dark wizards were confused, but Tonks beside them was also confused. She couldn't help but speak. Charles, let's go quickly. This is Nocturne Alley. It's too dangerous. Before he finished speaking, Charles glanced at her. You are such a novice, and you still want to teach me how to do things. Immediately, with a wave of her wand, the ground beneath Tonks' feet churned and turned into a quagmire that submerged her. Charles nodded in satisfaction. This way, when we rob the dark wizards in Nocturne Alley later, we won't have to worry about Tonks, our precious material, escaping. Nor will we have to worry about this woman doing anything weird. This is what he learned from watching countless movies in his previous life. When doing big things, all interfering factors must be eliminated to avoid any accidents. Then, he pointed the wand in his hand at the dark wizards again. Will you call for help? These dark wizards had a dreamy trance look on their faces after looking at each other. The same meaning was revealed in their eyes. Why do you think we should mess with him? It's really unlucky to find such a ruthless person, but he is a dark wizard after all, and he has no moral burden. Faced with Ciel's wand and the transfiguration quagmire that was gradually suffocating them, they nodded in agreement without hesitation. One of the dark wizards took the wand and obediently sent the dark wizard's secret language into Nocturne Alley, as Charles requested. Then he carefully put down the wand and looked at Charles with a malicious light flashing in his eyes. Lord Ciel, I did as you said. Our relatives and friends will be here soon. The other dark wizards who were trapped in the quagmire also had coldness in their eyes. This is Nocturne Alley, and there's no telling how many dark wizards roam around here. They just didn't believe it. Could a little wizard like Charles really suppress the entire Nocturne Alley? More and more dark wizards will come from Nocturne Alley soon, and Charles will definitely be defeated by then. They vowed to repay Charles 100-fold for what he had done. Just at this moment, several black-robed figures hurried in from Nocturne Alley, still discussing the secret words that had just flown into Nocturne Alley. An opportunity to make a fortune. Ciel was caught. Where is he? When they saw Charles standing alone at the entrance of Nocturne Alley, the dark wizards who had rushed over were overjoyed, their eyes full of greed. Really? Ciel, this overwhelming wealth has fallen upon us. But the next moment, the dust-free land expanded again, enveloping them. Several branches turned into ropes, wrapped around them, and then swung them violently with a plop. These dark wizards were also thrown into the quagmire, splashing mud all over the sky. Their wands and the magical items they carried were scattered on the ground and became Charles's trophies. Ciel pointed his wand at them and said coldly, keep calling for help into Nocturne Alley. Otherwise, although I don't know how to cast the Cruciatus curse, I guarantee that being drowned in muddy water will not be a pleasant experience. These new dark wizards were awe-stunned, but they quickly understood the situation. A few more secret messages flew towards the depths of Nocturne Alley. Come on, this Charles has so many goodies on him that we can't even eat them all. Let's all get rich together. Dark wizards don't lie to dark wizards. The continuous whispers that flew by also broke the silence of Nocturne Alley. In Nocturne Alley at night, there were shadowy figures appearing, and it was almost as lively as Diagon Alley during the day. However, what greeted these dark wizards who wanted to get rich was not the shining gold galleons, but the combination of Char's unsolvable dustless land curse and the transfiguration quagmire. In just over 10 minutes, the entrance to Nocturne Alley was already covered in a quagmire filled with dark wizards planted by Charles. Ciel has collected nearly 30 magic wands alone, Other miscellaneous black magic items were also scattered on the ground, including a few things that were comparable to the venom of an eight-eyed giant spider. Looking at these harvests, Charles took a deep breath and looked at the gloomy and deep Nocturne Alley in front of him, as if he had seen some holy place you have to pay to buy things in other places, but in Nocturne Alley, you don't even need to pay to rob others. Is there a better place in the wizarding world? In Charles' heart, Nocturne Alley is now the place second only to the dreamland of Arlette. However, when Charles glanced at the dark wizards who were stuck in the quagmire, he was deeply dissatisfied with the number of dark wizards. Why are there so few people? Nocturne Alley is so big and deep, and I see there are so many doors and windows. How can 30 or so dark wizards come out? No way. His eyes swept towards Nocturne Alley. That means there are still many dark wizards who haven't come out yet. Charles was quite dissatisfied with this. What happened? As a dark wizard, you have all this wealth right before your eyes, but you don't even come out. This is very unprofessional of you. If you guys don't come out, I'll go in and search every house. Right. Immediately, Charles waved his wand, released a middle-aged black wizard from the mud, and conjured up a rope to tie him up. I, Charles, am kind-hearted. I cannot bear to see the dark wizards in Nocturne Alley suffer from poverty, so I must deliver the goods to their doorsteps. Take me in and identify each door. At this moment, the middle-aged dark wizard's eyes had lost their light as he witnessed Charles planting dark wizards one after another into the mud like potatoes in his eyes. Charles was simply a monster, and he was scared to death. Besides, being stuck in the mud and feeling the fear that the mud could drown him at any time was enough to consume his already limited courage. The middle-aged dark wizard was as obedient as a quail. Taking Charles into Nocturne Alley and identifying dark wizards from house to house, he pointed to a door. Here, there lives the dark wizard, and he hasn't come out. Charles grinned and shouted outside the door, "Open the door, Mr. Dark Wizard, please open the door, I'm here to bring you wealth." A muffled voice came from inside, but even through the door, one could hear the fear in it. "No, I don't need it, I'm used to being poor. There's nothing wrong with being a little poor. Thank you for your kindness." The next moment, Ciel pointed his wand at the door. "Erato. Cave is open." The unlocking charm, a spell that students learn in their first year at Hogwarts. With the amount of magical knowledge that Charles had acquired after repeated deductions in the Deep Blue system, he was able to use it skillfully by just flipping through the elementary spell book. But after the unlocking spell hit the door lock, the door did not open. The middle-aged dark wizard explained, "Every door and window in Nocturne Alley is protected from the unlocking spell. After all, here, no one wants to have their house turned upside down when they go out." There was also a sound of relief coming from inside the room. "Yes, that's right. I have specially reinforced the door of my room. You can't open it, Mr. Charles. I really don't want this opportunity to make a fortune. Let's give it to someone else." Ciel took a deep breath. "Do not want. I'm here to give you a chance to get rich, and you don't want it. Are you going to trample on my kindness and good intentions?" "Good intentions should not be rewarded like this." Immediately, Charles whispered the incantation of the high-frequency laser spell. A bright and dazzling laser burst out from Ciel's wand. The laser that could melt and cut even steel easily opened a big hole in the door in front of him like cutting tofu, revealing the dark wizard inside with a confused and terrified look on his face. Without waiting for him to chant the spell, Charles waved his wand, and the messy debris in the house was transformed under the transfiguration spell, hanging the dark wizard in the air, and the wand and all the magic items fell out. Ciel turned and looked at the middle-aged dark wizard. The next one, the middle-aged dark wizard's eyes became more and more wide, and he obediently led Charles from house to house in Nocturne Alley. The dazzling lasers hardly ever stopped in Nocturne Alley. The terrified and frightened cries of the dark wizards echoed in the night sky of Nocturne Alley, but outside the alley, all that could be heard was silence. In a bar in Nocturne Alley, several dark wizards hid behind the bar, curled up and shivering. Some of them were holding their wands and shouting angrily, "Shame, this is such a shame." In Nocturne Alley, a place that makes people shudder with fear, we, a group of vicious dark wizards, were defeated by a little wizard. We were so scared that we hid in the bar and trembled, not daring to come out. If this gets out, dark wizards from other countries will look down on us. Think about it. If those French dark wizards heard about this, would we still be able to hold our heads high? The dark wizards nearby were also angry when they heard this. Those French guys? Why do they do that? When Grindelwald first rose to power, they were the first to surrender. Do they have the right to criticize us? No. No matter who you ask me to be looked down upon, I can't let those French guys look down upon me. The dark wizard who spoke earlier nodded repeatedly. That's right. We should go out and kill that guy Ciel. The dark wizards nearby nodded in agreement. Yes, that's right. Kill Ciel. Strongly agree. Since you said so, then go ahead. The dark wizard just now was stunned for a moment. We should go together. Why should I go? This is to protect everyone's reputation. The other dark wizards were not interested. Forget it. I'm already an adult. What kind of reputation do I have? When the Death Eaters were recruiting, weren't we all rejected? We are just a bunch of small fry. Can you please stop thinking of yourself as a powerful dark wizard who can stop a baby from crying at night? How much is fame worth? Let's hide here and not go out. I don't think Charles will be able to find us. At this moment, a dazzling laser lit up the doors and windows of the bar, which were protected by protective spells, were easily shattered into pieces by the high-frequency laser spell. The light illuminated the pale faces of the dark wizards huddled behind the counter, and also illuminated Charles's grinning mouth. Ah, there are a few little mice hiding here. Found you. Chapter 36. You should be assigned to Azkaban. 3 deductions of transfiguration. Screams of terror pierced the night sky of Nocturne Alley, and then quickly turned into silence, as if being swallowed by some monster. The few little mice that Charles had just found were now hung upside down by ropes created by transfiguration, and their wands and magic items were also looted by Charles. In Charles's hand was a bag that had been extended with a traceless stretching spell. Even though the space inside the bag had been expanded a lot, it still seemed a bit stretched at the moment. It was almost filled with a harvest from Nocturne Alley. Fortunately, after this bar, the area belonging to Nocturne Alley is almost at the end. Charles strolled forward and saw a quaint shop in front of him with a sign of Borgin and Burke's hanging on it. Narrowing his eyes slightly, Charles did not break the door with a high-frequency laser spell as before, but stopped at a distance. Charles still had some fears about this store that stood firm in Nocturne Alley. When Voldemort graduated from Hogwarts, he didn't even go to the Ministry of Magic, preferring to work in the store, although a big part of the reason was that Voldemort wanted to find some strange items here to make Horcruxes. Voldemort was not a person who liked to waste time. If Voldemort couldn't learn anything here, he wouldn't be able to stay for long. Even Voldemort, who had just graduated from Hogwarts, had already mastered advanced black magic such as making Horcruxes, and whose strength had surpassed most of the Hogwarts professors. But even so, he still patiently stayed in Borgin and Burke's for a long time. The place where he can learn something must be very deep. What's more, the vanishing cabinet, the key item for assassinating Dumbledore in the original book, also appeared in this store. Being able to participate in this matter and play a key role further proves that this store is fundamentally different from those dark wizards outside. Ciel had no intention of forcing his way into Borgin and Burke's until he had the strength to ensure that he would not fail. Just as Ciel stopped in front of Borgin and Burke's, a greasy voice came from inside. Mr. Charles, you made a wise choice. Believe me, if you break into Borgin and Burke's, you will definitely pay an unimaginable price. How about this? We should live in harmony. How about you just leave now? Ciel raised an eyebrow. He didn't intend to force his way in here, but since he was already here, should he go back empty-handed? The treasures in Borgin and Burke's are much better than the collections of those poor dark wizards, he sneered. Peace is the most precious thing? Let's be frank. I, Charles, am robbing. The greasy voice inside obviously carried a bit of anger. Robbery? You can try. I guarantee that walking into Borgin and Burke's will be the biggest regret of your life. There was a strange look on Charles' face. Is it that? May not be the case. Who says you have to go in if you want to rob someone? Charles said quietly, holding his wand. Mr. Borgin, do you believe me throwing shit at the door of your shop? In Borgin and Burke's, the greasy voice fell into a long silence, followed by an incomprehensible exclamation. Charles, you are a scoundrel with a black heart. You are shameless. Ciel shrugged. Do we need to talk about morality when dealing with dark wizards? Besides, I have never claimed that I am a person of high moral standards. As he spoke, Charles seemed to remember something and took out a magic camera from a seamless stretch pocket he carried with him. He said excitedly, I'll film the whole process of throwing feces and send it to the Daily Prophet or something like that. In the store, Mr. Bojan was really panicked, throwing feces. Even a dark wizard couldn't think of such a dirty trick. Even though his shop is located in Nocturne Alley, many important people come here to deal with some shameful things. If the photo of him being splashed with feces were to get out, those wealthy aristocratic wizards would probably not even set foot on the floor tiles in front of his door. This caused Mr. Bojan to utter a vicious curse. I really hope that the head at the Hogwarts sorting ceremony can be smart for once and put you in Azkaban. That's where you belong. But then, Mr. Bojan compromised and packed up a few treasures in the store into a package and threw it out. Ciel waved his wand, opened the package, and saw a withered human hand inside. This is a black magic item called the Hand of Glory. When a candle is lit in the Hand of Glory, it will emit a light that can only be seen by the holder, and it is enough to illuminate most of the magical fog in the original book. This item also played a significant role in helping Malfoy and his Death Eater sneak into Hogwarts to assassinate Dumbledore. Ciel didn't expect that Bojan would take this thing out directly. This was a pleasant surprise. This thing may be used as material for further deduction of the luminescent spell. If we can integrate the Eternal Blazing Sun Curse with features that are only visible to the user, the power of the Eternal Blazing Sun Curse may not increase, but its concealment will be greatly improved. When the enemy dies, they won't even know how they died. As for the other two items in the package, they are not as special as the Hand of Glory and will most likely be directly absorbed as deduction points. However, when put together with the Hand of Glory, the magic power contained in these two items is also extraordinary, and should be able to provide a considerable amount of deduction points. Charles' eyes showed satisfaction compared to those poor dark wizards. Bojan is obviously much richer. When I have enough strength, I will come back and see what other collections Bojan has. As for now, tonight's bounty is bountiful enough. Charles seized more than 70 magic wands alone, as well as dozens of various miscellaneous black magic items, including precious materials such as unicorn horns, 8-eyed giant spider venom, and dragon hearts. Not to mention there is Tonks, a disguised animagus. Charles' eyes showed anticipation. I have already gathered all the points for the secondary deduction of the animagus transfiguration. With this harvest and Twinks material, perhaps we can deduce the animagus transfiguration 3 times in one go. Then, this will be another magic that has been deduced 3 times after the Eternal Blazing Sun Curse. Think about the power of the Eternal Sun Curse, which was derived from the Luminescence Curse. Ciel doesn't think that the 3 deductions of transfiguration in the direction of animagus are inferior to the Eternal Sun spell. Perhaps a problem that the wizarding world has never solved before. The magical animagus that can transform into magical animals will be born tonight. With such expectations, Charles carried his harvest and hurried towards the entrance of Nocturne Alley. Chapter 37. You still say you are not undercover? Exclamation mark. When Charles returned to the entrance of Nocturne Alley, a group of dark wizards were still stuck like potatoes in the quagmire created by transfiguration. Seeing Charles' figure coming from the depths of Nocturne Alley, these dark wizards' eyes were filled with deep fear. During the time that Charles disappeared, they prayed countless times that God would have mercy on them and kill this daring little wizard in the depths of Nocturne Alley. But now, Charles came out intact, and even the bag in his hand made a clanging sound with his footsteps, obviously full of spoils. What does this mean? This means that the entire Nocturne Alley was really destroyed by Charles. Nocturne Alley, which makes ordinary wizards shudder with fear, was robbed today by a young wizard who has not yet entered school. What kind of little monster is this? Even Dumbledore, Grindelwald, or even he who must not be named, wouldn't be able to have such strength at this age. One after another, they looked at Charles with eyes filled with fear, and some even reverence. When Charles' gaze turned to them, the dark wizards subconsciously lowered their heads, showing the humble attitude of the weak. Facing the strong, Ciel nodded in satisfaction, waved his wand, and released Tonks, who was trapped in the swamp at this moment. Tonks was also filled with shock. She couldn't imagine that a little wizard could accomplish such a feat and rob all the dark wizards in Nocturne Alley. This is 11 years old. Tonks, who had always thought she was talented, suddenly felt a strong sense of disillusionment. Am I really that bad? But then Twinks came to her senses and couldn't help but persuade Charles. Charles, it's wrong for you to do this. Although these are dark wizards, you are committing robbery and the amount is huge. If the Ministry of Magic gets to know, you will be in big trouble. Before he finished speaking, Charles frowned. It's noisy. With a wave of the wand, several ropes were coiled into a ball and stuffed into Tonks' mouth, leaving her with only a slight whimper. Then, tighter ropes were tied around Tonks. Even her hands and feet were tied tightly. to prevent her from disapparating and escaping, leaving Ciel without the material for the animagus disguise, which was unique in the wizarding world. It was at this moment that he seemed to be reminded by Twink's words just now. Charles, who was about to leave, glanced at these dark wizards and asked, "As you all heard, there was quite a lot of noise tonight. If the Ministry of Magic knew about it, I would be in a lot of trouble. You're not going to the Ministry of Magic to complain that I robbed you. I'm going to Hogwarts soon, and I don't want to face questions from the Ministry of Magic every other day. Will you go to the Ministry?" The dark wizards were frightened and shook their heads hurriedly, not daring to hesitate for the slightest. They now had no doubt that if their answers did not satisfy Charles, they might really be drowned in the mud by this little monster. No, how could that be? We are dark wizards. Why would we go to the Ministry of Magic to complain? Don't worry, Lord Ciel. We dark wizards have professional ethics. Ciel raised his eyebrows and continued to ask, "What if someone investigates and asks what happened tonight and why there was such a big commotion? What do you say?" The dark wizards fell silent. The next moment, a clever dark wizard immediately said, "We in Nocturne Alley have always had a simple and honest folk customs. We all love each other as a family. We are also very enthusiastic about the children who come to Nocturne Alley. The commotion tonight was caused by us in Nocturne Alley holding a welcoming ceremony for Mr. Charles." Shia paused for a moment, a smile appearing on the corner of his mouth. Then, "Your doors and windows are all broken, many people are drowned in the mud, and many people are hung upside down." This time, there was no need for the clever dark wizard to come up with a solution, as other dark wizards immediately followed suit. "This is all carnival content. We are so happy. We saw Mr. Charles coming to Nocturne Alley. He was so excited that he took down his doors and windows. As for being drowned in the mud and hanging upside down, these are all performances. We are performing the mud-holding performance, and those are performing acrobatics." Ciel asked the last question with satisfaction. "If someone asks you where your wands and other magical items are, how will you answer?" All the dark wizards present gave the same answer: "Gift, local specialties, Mr. Charles is leaving Nocturne Alley, and we are so reluctant to let him go, so we gave these things to Mr. Charles as gifts and local specialties. We all gave it voluntarily." This time, Charles was completely satisfied. He held out his hand, intending to take Twinks to the leaky cauldron to study the materials for an animagus disguise, but when he saw Twinks covered in mud, Ciel withdrew his hand, and with a look of disgust, he used transfiguration to conjure up a garbage cart and threw Twinks into it. At this moment, Tonks looked at the walls of the garbage truck with a look of despair on her face, as if her soul had been pulled out of the world. She was filled with one thought: this magic world should just be destroyed. It was long after Ciel took Twinks away from Nocturne Alley that the mud and ropes transformed by the transfiguration were finally removed. The dark wizards, covered in dust and dirt, were shivering and moving their stiff bodies. Tonight was a complete nightmare for them. After they recovered a little, all the dark wizards showed expressions of hatred, and their eyes were directed at the first few dark wizards who brought Ciel to Diagon Alley. "You were the ones who led Ciel here. Is there something wrong with your brain? Why did you mess with him? Now I'm gone. I have nothing left. All the gold galleons on me were taken away by Charles. Are you guys undercover agents hired by Ciel?" When the dark wizards saw this scene, they swallowed their saliva. The middle-aged dark wizard quickly explained, "How could that be? How could we be undercover agents hired by Ciel? We have a deep hatred with Charles, and we cannot reconcile with each other." Then he quickly added, "It's not over yet. Today's matter is definitely not over yet. We can't just let Ciel go. We have to get back what we have earned from our hard work. Everyone was just pretending to be nice to Charles, right? Now that Charles is gone, we can speak freely. We will go to the Ministry of Magic. We will go to the Wizengamot Court. We will go to Hogwarts to put up banners and demand an explanation. A madman like Ciel will never be able to enter Hogwarts. We will make him lose the qualification to enter Hogwarts, and we will make him be sentenced by the Wizengamot to break his wand. We will make Ciel pay the price for what he did today. He and his 3 direct descendants will not be able to pass the examination for the Ministry of Magic." Before he finished speaking, a huge duel hit the middle-aged dark wizard in the face. This was followed by the increasingly angry voices of the dark wizards nearby. In this case, if Ciel doesn't go to Hogwarts, he will have to stay in the dark wizarding world, right? Then what do we do? You Have such a cruel heart and such a vicious suggestion. Do you want us to die, you son of a bitch? You still say you're not undercover? Beat these undercover dogs to death and expel them from the Dark Wizarding Society. Chapter 38. Voldemort couldn't hold it anymore. The old bee was so shameless. Outside Nocturne Alley, the several dark wizards who had lured Charles here earlier all limped out with bruised faces and noses. Their faces were filled with dejection. Originally, he was thinking of making a fortune from Charles, a big fat sheep, and living the life of a wealthy wizard from then on, but I never expected that this was not a fat sheep at all, but a tiger in sheep's clothing. Now not only did they not make any money, but the 3 precious materials they bought with a mortgaged loan were snatched away by Charles, and even their ones were taken away, and they were boycotted by the Dark Wizards. The day of debt collection from Gringotts was imminent, and if they couldn't pay off the debts, they knew with their butts that those goblins would absolutely squeeze out all the remaining value of their lives. These Dark Wizards, you look at me and I look at you. What should we do now? It seems like we can't survive in the British wizarding world anymore. I heard that Gringotts is as cruel as ice to wizards who owe them money. Just when they felt they were at their wits' end, the middle-aged dark wizard in the lead gritted his teeth and said, I know a rumor that may help us turn things around. Several people looked over, and the middle-aged dark wizard continued, I heard that there is such a legend in the wilderness of northern Scotland. Legend has it that there was a pair of wizard tomb robbers who specialized in stealing treasures from tombs. They lived a wealthy life and even enjoyed robbing tombs, until one day, they dug up an ancient tomb and unearthed an exquisite magic necklace. It is said that the necklace is made of a magical metal that no one has ever seen before. It is shaped like the fangs of some kind of beast. Just one look at it will give you a sense of horror mixed with gorgeous beauty. Later, the pair of wizard tomb robbers disappeared. Some legends say that they had an internal conflict over the necklace and both died in the duel. Others say that the necklace had some special magic that made them crazy and brought them to their own cemetery, but what is certain is that the magic necklace is absolutely priceless. If we could dig it out of its grave in the wilds of northern Scotland, wouldn't that be a game changer? After these words were spoken, several other dark wizards also showed excited looks in their eyes. The priceless magic necklace is their only chance to turn the tables. The middle-aged dark wizard continued to encourage, a person can be unlucky for a while, but he can't be unlucky for his whole life, right? We have hit rock bottom. There is nothing to be afraid of anymore. After a while, they unanimously decided to go to the wilderness of northern Scotland to look for the legendary magic fang necklace. Meanwhile, in Diagon Alley, the garbage truck squeaked as it rolled on its own, and Twinks was jolted in the car, feeling like she had no desire to live being tied up by a little wizard and shoveled away in a garbage truck like this. Tonks felt like she was having an extremely ridiculous nightmare, and Charles was walking slowly on the side, looking very relaxed, but if you look closely, you can see that his fingers are tightly clenched on the mithril wand, and his knuckles appear raised and white. Then, as if he was tripped, Charles staggered. But in fact he took the opportunity to turn around quickly and pointed his wand at a shadow on the street. You've followed me all the way, come out. After a moment's silence, a figure wrapped in a large turban slowly walked out from the shadows. A curious voice sounded, how did you find me? Looking at this figure, Charles' expression was extremely solemn. In this kind of weather, he still has a headscarf wrapped around the back of his head, so his identity is obvious. It was Professor Quirrell, the defense against the dark arts professor who was possessed by Voldemort in the original book and broke into Hogwarts to steal the Philosopher's Stone. Under that turban, on the back of Quirrell's head, was Voldemort's face. Ciel didn't know when Quirrell had targeted him. Now it seemed likely that Quirrell had been in Diagon Alley before, who witnessed everything Charles did and followed him all the way. If Charles had not cast a clean earth spell when he left Nocturne Alley in order to completely eliminate all traces of magic he had left behind, which just happened to cover the area where Quirrell was, and sensed the extremely suffocating and terrifying magic, Charles would not have discovered that there was such a person lurking in the dark at this moment. Charles felt cold sweat gradually seeping out of his back. He is not afraid of Quirrell. What he fears is the Voldemort in Quirrell, although Voldemort is now in a state of residual soul, which is far from his heyday. A lean camel is still bigger than a horse. Even someone like Dumbledore did not act rashly before he fully understood Voldemort's remaining strength, so naturally, Charles was very wary while tightly gripping the wand. Ciel was ready to recite the killing curse. He also felt relieved. Fortunately, I had previously deduced the apparition. Otherwise, if I were to fall into this situation and fail to win, I would be at the mercy of others. As for now, at least he could still run. But what made Charles slightly relieved was that Quirrell didn't seem to have any intention of attacking him, but instead applauded him. "I saw you wandering into Nocturne Alley before, and I was going to protect you, but I realized it was not necessary at all. Mr. Ciel, you are a little wizard of Muggle origin who has not even enrolled in Hogwarts yet you have such profound attainments in transfiguration. If we were at Hogwarts now, I would add 100 points to your house." After some praise, Quirrell revealed his identity. "Don't worry, I'm not a bad person. I am the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor hired by Hogwarts this year. I was in Nocturne Alley buying some materials for my class, but I didn't expect to witness such an astonishing scene." Then, Quirrell blinked his eyes, as if trying to get closer to Ciel. "I won't tell anyone about what happened tonight. After all, everyone should have some little secrets, right?" And in the next moment, Kiluo's temperament became even colder and deeper. He waved his wand casually, and a street lamp turned into a thick python, coiled on the street, making a hissing sound. When Charles saw this scene, his pupils shrank slightly and he exclaimed in amazement, "It looks like Voldemort and Quirrell has taken action. Is he showing his strength to himself?" This kind of transformation is indeed amazing. Although Ciel was the first to deduce transfiguration, his attainments were only as profound as those of ordinary wizards. Compared with perverted geniuses like Voldemort and Dumbledore, his level was not even as good as theirs when they graduated, let alone Voldemort today. Just this move of Voldemort made a deep blue reminder sound in Charles' mind. The host has obtained the living creature transformation branch material of the transfiguration spell. The points required for secondary deduction in this direction have decreased. Such a reminder made Charles happy. "Wow, I didn't expect that when I first met Voldemort. He gave me a small gift." As for why Voldemort showed off his transfiguration skills in front of him, Charles probably guessed that he wanted to seduce him so that he would continue to look for him after entering Hogwarts, or even help him steal the Philosopher's Stone. He might even make himself a hidden agent lurking beside Dumbledore. This made an idea come to Charles' mind. There aren't many opportunities to come into contact with a wizard of Voldemort's level. Although Dumbledore had previously promised to teach Charles more spells, this old bee was too wary and would set tests at every turn, which was not very pleasant. If he could see more advanced magic here at Voldemort's place, the materials Deep Blue could obtain alone would be enough to save Charles a lot of deduction points in the future. But Voldemort was not a philanthropist. When he possessed Quirrell, he had to consume his own strength. If he had not been greatly stimulated, he would not have displayed too much advanced magic. Is there any way to make Voldemort act on his impulse? Just as Charles was thinking about it, Voldemort, who possessed Quirrell, spoke tempting words. "Char, your talents and gifts are not something that ordinary professors can teach you, but I happen to know some powerful magic, such as the transfiguration you just saw. After school starts, you can come to me for advice if you need to learn any magic. Teach me, but don't keep anything secret." Looking at Charles, Voldemort was very confident that this little wizard would not be able to resist the temptation and come to him. How could a talented young wizard who already had such great accomplishments in transfiguration before entering school resist the temptation to learn more advanced magic? Exclamation mark. At this moment, Charles' eyes lit up and a thought flashed through his mind like lightning. Immediately, a look of disappointment appeared on his face. Professor, I thought you were going to teach me something, but it turns out it's transfiguration." Then, Charles lowered his voice. "Then, let me tell you a little secret. Headmaster Dumbledore has already promised me that he will personally teach me transfiguration after school starts. The headmaster also said that his transfiguration is the strongest in the entire wizarding world. I even asked the principal who had better transfiguration skills, him or the you-know-who. The principal said that the you-know-who wasn't even worthy of carrying his shoes. According to the principal, a lot of the you-know-who's magic was actually plagiarized from his notes, and then shamelessly claimed it as his own. It's simply shameless." After Charles said this, Quirrell's expression gradually became stiffer. "What? Dumbledore, old headmaster, said that? Fuck, how shameless." Chapter 39, Voldemort breaks through the defense. Harvest time. "Shameless, this is absolutely shameless." Kiluo was cursing there with gnashing teeth. Ciel tilted his head and asked curiously, "Professor, why do you hate me so much? Who are you calling shameless?" Kiluo had a stiff expression, forced a smile, and spoke word by word through gritted teeth. "I mean the mysterious person who plagiarized Headmaster Dumbledore's magic is shameless, really shameless. Stealing Magical achievements is the most despised thing in the magic world, Ciel. Nodded in agreement. Yeah, I think so too, Principal. Dumbledore told me that the you-know-who is famous for the killing curse and claims to have developed it from runes, but that is not the case at all. The Principal said that he had developed the killing curse a long time ago, but because it was too cruel, he only wrote it down in his notebook. It was eventually stolen by a mysterious person and became his signature. Voldemort, who occupied Quirrell's body, was stunned, as if he was in some kind of confusion. Then Charles dropped another bombshell. The Principal also said that the mysterious man also stole the transfiguration technique from him, and what he learned was only the basics. Back then, the you-know-who wanted to complete a transfiguration called animagus and transform into a giant snake, but something went wrong, and it was Headmaster Dumbledore who changed him back. The reason why the mysterious man lost his nose was because of the after effects of his animagus transformation. The Principal shook his head when he mentioned it. He said that if he had known, he would not have saved the mysterious man and let him eat rats until he died. Voldemort's face turned blue and purple. He never expected to hear such news from Charles Dumbledore. This sinister and cunning old bee actually used such words to slander himself behind his back. The killing curse was clearly an achievement that he was proud of, so when did it become his? Also, the reason why I lost my nose was completely intentional. It was just a trivial price I paid for the dark magic of transfiguration. How did it become that I failed in the transfiguration and was saved by Dumbledore? Rumors. They are all rumors that discredit myself. Old B. Dumbledore, how many rumors did he spread during the years he disappeared? But after his anger, Voldemort still had a trace of doubt. He really didn't think Dumbledore was a saint, but could Dumbledore's quality really be so low? Could it be that the little wizard Ciel was talking nonsense? The next moment, a gleam of light flashed across Voldemort's eyes. This is his innate ability, similar to legilimency, which has reached its peak after constant tempering and transformation by black magic, and can detect almost any lie. Lying in front of the Dark Lord was something that was generally considered impossible among the Death Eaters. Even though this little bit of soul is all he has left, Voldemort can still use this ability. He wanted to see if what Charles said was true. At the same time, a deep blue voice sounded in Ciel's mind. The host has obtained legilimency magic materials. The points required to deduce the legilimency spell will be greatly reduced. There was also a hint of strangeness in Charles' eyes. Since Deep Blue said so, that means Voldemort is already very angry, right? Legilimency is almost like a natural instinct. No one can lie in front of the Dark Lord. What if I didn't lie? Charles considered it for a moment, then began to fan the flames again. In the heart of Headmaster Dumbledore, he has only one real opponent and nemesis, and that is Grindelwald. What? A mysterious man. In Dumbledore's opinion, he is not as good as Grindelwald. In Dumbledore's mind, the only person who can be called the Dark Lord is Grindelwald. As soon as these words were spoken, Voldemort, who was using his own talent to judge the truth of Charles' words, just stayed there. Really, he could sense that what Charles said was true. If those previous words had angered Voldemort and made Voldemort feel that Dumbledore, the old bee, was becoming more and more shameless, these few sentences now completely broke down Voldemort's defense. He never imagined that he regarded Dumbledore as his greatest opponent, but in Dumbledore's eyes, he, the Dark Lord who caused havoc, was nothing and could not compare to the failed Grindelwald. Why wouldn't that make me just like a clown? Dumbledore. Voldemort roared angrily in his heart. You will pay for what you said. Then, as if he had made up his mind, his eyes became much colder as he looked at Charles. Ciel, Dumbledore's magic is certainly powerful, but I have traveled in the wizarding world for many years and have also obtained some mysterious and powerful magic, which may not be inferior to Dumbledore's. Come to my office after school starts, and I'll teach you all these magic tricks. Believe me, once you use it, I guarantee that even Headmaster Dumbledore will be frightened. Charles raised his eyebrows, looking doubtful. Really? Okay, then Professor, I'll give you a chance. Voldemort took a deep breath, turned and walked away into the shadows. He returned the body to Quirrell, and Quirrell, who had regained control of his body, was as pale as paper and asked tremblingly, Master, are you really going to teach Ciel magic? Voldemort's voice, filled with infinite anger, echoed in his soul. I was just planning to use Ciel as a pawn, taking advantage of his pursuit of power and seeing if I could put him to good use, but now, I have changed my mind. Dumbledore, that damn old bastard, I'm going to let him know what the price is for completely angering me. I Want to prove to Ciel that Dumbledore's outdated magic is nothing compared to mine. I want Ciel to completely surrender to the dark side and severely hurt Dumbledore and his Order of the Phoenix. Voldemort's voice was cold. Didn't Dumbledore have his boy who lived? It just so happens that I heard that this Ciel has recently been called another boy who lived. Then he will be mine, then. Voldemort urged Quirrell. Get ready. I need to break into Gringotts as soon as possible and get the Philosopher's Stone to rebuild my body. I've had enough of this kind of life. When I rebuild my body, I will terrify Dumbledore and make this Ciel crawl at my feet, watching Quirrell's figure disappear into the distance. Charles' tense body gradually relaxed and he let out a long sigh. It has to be said that although Ciel successfully broke Voldemort's defense with his familiarity with the plot, he got the opportunity to go to Hogwarts to learn Voldemort's advanced dark magic, but the pressure that Voldemort's fury just now brought to Charles was also enormous. If a fight really breaks out, and if the magic Charles has fails to work in the first place, he will probably have no choice but to use apparition to escape. It can only be said that his current strength is still quite far from the level of Dumbledore and Voldemort to others. This is a matter of course after all. Dumbledore and Voldemort are the top figures in the wizarding world. It is simply crazy for a little wizard like Ciel to want to compete with him in strength, but there was a hint of coldness in Charles' eyes. He didn't like this feeling of being oppressed. Moreover, for him, the chasm that is difficult for ordinary people to cross may only take one night. After taking a deep breath, Ciel quickened his pace and took Tonks back to the leaky cauldron. Clank, clank. Charles poured out a large bag of spoils, his expression gradually becoming more and more heated. This is what we reaped from tonight's looting of Nocturne Alley. If it is completely digested, the 3 deductions of transfiguration will be completed. I can't say anything about Voldemort in his heyday, but if it's Voldemort possessing Quirrell, Charles may be able to take a chance on him. The next moment, Charles grabbed the bottle of 8-eyed giant spider venom and gulped it down. Deep blue, dinner is ready. Chapter 4300,000 points. Deduction begins. As he drank a bottle of 8-eyed giant spider venom, a series of deep blue prompt sounds suddenly rang out in Charles' mind. Deduction points plus 100, deduction points plus 100, when the reminder sounded, Charles had no intention of stopping. He also stuffed the unicorn's horn into his mouth because the dragon's heart was too big. Charles used a laser spell to cut it into several pieces and then swallowed it one piece at a time. Then, Charles lined up the ones of the Dark Wizards into a long line and swallowed them all into his stomach with a slurp. Just like eating a bowl of longevity noodles, even the dangerous magic items scattered on the ground were not even blinked by Charles. Except for the Hand of Glory, which he intended to study in order to continue to deduce the fluorescent spell, all other magic items were devoured by Charles at a whirlwind. When the last magic item disappeared from Charles' mouth, the deep blue prompt in his mind finally froze. The rapidly growing total number of deduction points also slowly stopped, and finally stopped at 300,000 points. Looking at this unprecedented number, Charles' eyes were filled with ecstasy. After being in the magic world for so long, this is the first time he has so many deduction points. The golden belt of murder and arson. The ancients will not deceive me. However, according to Charles' previous experience in deducing spells, in order to complete 3 deductions of a more advanced spell, a score of nearly 1 million is basically required. Transfiguration should be no exception. 300,000 points is still a long way to go to reach the goal of 3 deductions, but Ciel happened to have Tonks, the only animagus in the wizarding world who could change her appearance, and who was born with some of the animagus's transfiguration abilities according to the Deep Blue system. These are all extremely precious high-grade materials. The materials obtained from her can greatly reduce the deduction points required for animagus transfiguration. 300,000, plus Tonks, should be enough. Charles stood up and went to a room in the suite when he just came back. In order to prevent Tonks from seeing that he could swallow the venom of the 8-eyed giant spider, the heart of the dragon and many dangerous magical items, he locked Tonks directly in the room. And now is the final harvest moment. At this time, Tonks, who was locked in the room, saw Ciel coming and a look of panic appeared in her eyes. The actions of the little wizard Charles were so unexpected, and she didn't know what Charles would do to her then. Ciel raised his wand towards Tonks, untied the rope that was stuffing Tonks' mouth, and said with a cold expression, "Use your ability to transform into an animagus and show me your transformation. When I am satisfied, I will let you go." Tonks' eyes widened. What exactly does Charles want to do? He went through so much trouble to bring me back just so that I could use the animagus ability of disguise. After a moment, Tonks gritted her teeth. "I'm an Auror. You can't do this to me, Charles. You are now suspected of kidnapping. First it was robbery, and now it's kidnapping. You are still a child, you can't go further down the wrong path. Charles took a deep breath, impatience in his eyes. He is not really a child. His values have already been formed. He has no time to listen to such educational principles. If Twinks hadn't been a nice person and had tried to protect herself when she was surrounded by dark wizards before, Ciel would not have let her off just because she had been stalking him. Charles said coldly, "Do you know why Borgin and Burks in Nocturne Alley would bow their heads and be willing to hand over several precious magical items to me?" He stepped closer to Tonks and said something that made Tonks' mind go blank. "Because I threatened Borgin that if he didn't give me some benefits, I would throw feces all over his store and take photos of the whole process and send them to the Daily Prophet and other newspapers. I have all the photos of you being subdued by the Dark Wizard, being planted in the mud by me, and being tied up with ropes, Senior Tonks, right? You'd better listen to me and show me your animagus disguise with all your strength. Then I will ensure that these photos will not be circulated. Otherwise, are you afraid of what Borgin is afraid of?" After realizing what Charles meant, Tonks' face turned pale and she screamed, completely giving up the idea of persuading Charles. "Do not want, I'll do it, I'll do it." Then, under Ciel's wand, Tonks activated the ability of the animagus to disguise herself, and her pink hair gradually turned into a fiery red color. Her pupils also turned into an icy blue. Ciel stared at Tonks intently. A deep blue reminder sounded in his mind. The host has obtained the material for the animagus transfiguration. The secondary and tertiary deduction points of the animagus transfiguration will be greatly reduced. Please continue to obtain more disguised animagus materials. So, Ciel urged Tonks again and again, put more effort and change the shape of your face. I have some celebrity posters here, just change them one by one according to the looks on them. What about body shape? Can body shape be changed? Every time Twinks changed, Ciel's hands moved slowly over her face and body, feeling the strange reactions of Tonks' body as it changed under magic. Ciel had some understanding of the animagus's ability to disguise itself. No wonder it is called animagus. It does have similarities with the traditional animagus transfiguration. The only difference is that the traditional animagus can transform its entire body into an animal, while the disguised animagus cannot transform into an animal and can only change its appearance, body shape, etc. But such reference value is extremely high. If the traditional animagus can change at will, like the disguised animagus for example, if it can be freely changed into countless animals such as brown bears, wild wolves, flying birds, etc., then its uses will undoubtedly be much wider. In addition, the transformation of the animagus is so stable that it can be passed down through blood to future generations. This characteristic related to the inheritance of magic is also of great reference value to magical animagus, whose goal is to transform into magical animals. As Charles's palm moved around Tonks' body for a few circles, the deep blue prompt sound finally stopped. This also means that Deep Blue has collected all the materials for animagus disguise at this time. Ciel once again checked the points needed to perform a second deduction of transfiguration in the direction of animagus. This has been reduced from the original 50,000 points to 20,000 points, and the points of the next 3 deductions will also decrease accordingly. Charles took a deep breath, anticipation in his eyes. 300,000 points are enough for 2 consecutive deductions. At this moment, Tonks' face flushed red, and she looked at Charles with extremely shameful and angry eyes while Charles was collecting materials. He touched her body several times without reservation. Tonks now wished she could bite off a piece of Charles' flesh. How could a little wizard who hasn't even started school yet be so bad? Exclamation mark. Feeling the gaze from Tonks, Ciel seemed to remember something. He took his hand off Tonks. "Sorry, it wasn't intentional. I just wanted to get a clearer feel for the process of transforming into an animagus." Tonks stared at Ciel. "I believe you, ghost. Charles, I'm telling you, I'm going to fight you. I'm not done with you." Before he finished speaking, a muffled sound was heard. Ciel took back the sturdy mithril wand in his hand and apologized to Tonks, who had fainted on the ground. "I'm sorry, I don't have the points to waste on a stunning spell, and I don't have the time to argue with you, so I can only use this physical stunning spell, but the effect seems pretty good." Then he tied Tonks tightly and locked her in the room so that she would not disturb him later. After doing this, Charles clenched his palms tightly and said something in his mind. Deep Blue, transfiguration, animagus direction, deduced. For me. Chapter 41, Ever-Changing. 3 deductions, magic animagus. Following Charles's words, 20,000 deduction points were deducted. What followed was that Ciel had honed the basic transfiguration technique to the point where it was almost instinctive, taking a sudden step towards mastering the animagus transfiguration technique in the wizarding world. There are not many wizards who can master the animagus transfiguration technique. There are only a handful of legal animagus registered with the Ministry of Magic. Even if illegal animagus are included, there are no more than 10 wizards who have mastered this transfiguration in the original work. The reason is that the traditional animagus transformation method in the magic world is too cumbersome, and the process requires the preparation of potions under various harsh conditions. It's not difficult, but if you make a mistake you have to start all over again if there is no reason to practice animagus, such as James Potter, Sirius Black and others helping Lupin who turned into a werewolf, or reporter Reggie needing to investigate various secrets. Few wizards would spend so much effort practicing animagus. It takes so much effort just to become an animal. You can neither get rich nor increase your strength. There's even a chance that you might turn into a bug or something and get eaten by a bird by accident. Who would be happy about that? There are also less complicated methods. For example, when the first group of wizards began to practice animagus transfiguration, they did not have such mature foolproof tutorials that could allow several Hogwarts students to practice it without the help of potions. He had to rely solely on his skills in transfiguration to transform. This is not complicated, but this process is enough to cause more than 90% of wizards to have various sequelae, and even nearly half of the wizards will be transformed into animals forever. Those successful ones constantly accumulated experience and summarized lessons, and developed the complicated but basically safe animagus transformation process that is now commonly used in the wizarding world. Basically every step here cannot be simplified any further and can be said to be a result of thousands of trials and tribulations. If someone could further improve the animagus transfiguration, even if it was just to reduce the tediousness of practicing it a little, this would be enough to shock the field of transfiguration in the wizarding world, and getting the Order of Merlin, second class, would be a sure thing. It's a pity that even transfiguration masters like Professor McGonagall and Dumbledore couldn't accomplish this task, but now, the Deep Blue system was burning up the deduction points, and coupled with the materials obtained from the disguised animagus, this feat that would take several generations to complete was accomplished in an instant in Charles' mind. Transfiguration, animagus direction, secondary deduction completed, host, gains full animagus transfiguration, a deep blue reminder sounded in Ciel's mind. Along with this, there is also a huge amount of information about the so-called complete animagus transfiguration. Since the creation of the animagus transfiguration, the ambitions of transfiguration masters have never been limited to transforming into just one animal. A master of transfiguration can transform a matchstick into anything in the world. How can he be satisfied with only being able to transform into an animal when it comes to his own transformation? Even this process is random and uncontrollable, and it depends on everyone's personality. The ability to change into a myriad of animals and switch freely between them is the ambition of the animagus transfiguration when it was created. It's just that this goal is too difficult, and the current magic world is still far from achieving it. But now, I am complete. Animagus transfiguration means that you can transform yourself into any ordinary animal at will, whether it is a bird, a beast, or an insect. Charles took a deep breath, excitement showing on his face. The next moment, he performed the full animagus transformation. In an instant, Charles' human form disappeared, and a gorgeous tiger appeared in the room. Ciel raised his palms, which should now be called claws, and stepped on the floor. The thick pads of flesh eliminated almost all sounds, making his movement seem like a ghost, and his vision, sense of smell, physical explosion, etc., are no different from a real tiger. Then, Charles suddenly jumped up and pounced forward. Halfway through the flight, he changed again. A pair of wings grew on the tiger's back, and in the blink of an eye it turned into a golden eagle. Just flap the wings casually, and there will be a whistling of air, and Charles can rush out of the window and soar into the sky at any time. As he once again performed the complete animagus transfiguration, the golden eagle fell to the ground again and turned into an ant, moving across the extremely large room. After a while, Charles' figure reappeared in the room. These wonderful experiences made Charles couldn't help but admire them. It feels like Monkey King's 72 transformations. This is a complete animagus transfiguration. If I were to submit this for a paper, I'd probably publish it until I die if I'm careful. I'd get a bunch of Orders of Merlin. This kind of transformation is much more useful in combat than before. It allows me to fly without the aid of anything, And I can also use the senses of animals to conduct exploration. However, even though he had developed the animagus transfiguration technique to this point, Ciel was still not satisfied. It is truly magical that one can transform into ordinary animals at will, but this is the wizarding world, and there are so many magical creatures, and the best of them are completely superior to ordinary beasts and even wizards. For example, there is a magical animal called the Nagdu panther, whose breath is extremely poisonous, and it is said that it requires at least 100 adult wizards to work together to capture it. There are also magical animals like the basilisk, whose gaze has an instant death effect. Even beings like ghosts will be petrified if they look directly into its gaze. Isn't this much better than the killing curse? If it could transform into a magical animal, Ciel felt that animagus transfiguration would have real practical value, and this is exactly the direction of the third transfiguration he envisioned, and it has also been declared impossible by the transfiguration masters in the magic world. Magical animagus transformation. Over the centuries, many transfiguration masters have pursued this direction, but without exception, they either died from the magic runaway during the transformation, or were completely transformed into magical creatures, with no way to recover. Therefore, the field of transfiguration has come to believe that this is an impossible direction to achieve. But at this moment, Charles' eyes were burning. What the magic world considers impossible is not impossible for him who possesses deep blue. Deep blue? How many points do you need to perform 3 deductions of transfiguration in the direction of magic animagus? Deep blue gave the answer: since we have obtained precious animagus disguise materials, which have a significant reference role in the magic animagus transfiguration, the points required for this deduction have been greatly reduced to 200,000 points. Charles clenched his fists, his heart filled with joy. This number is similar to his estimate. He had already collected 200,000 points, and even had nearly 80,000 points left. Without the slightest hesitation, Ciel growled in his mind: deep blue, triple metamorphosis, direction of magic animagus. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42: Miracle Achieved. What is a hexagonal warrior? Along with a low roar from Charles in his mind, a full 200,000 deduction points were deducted. This was the largest single investment in deduction that Ciel had ever made since he came to the wizarding world. This is even the result after obtaining a large amount of materials and significantly reducing the deduction points. If you don't have these materials, you have to rely on deep blue to brute force deduction, and the deduction points you spend will be at least in the millions. Charles' eyes showed anticipation. The total cost of deriving the luminescent spell into the eternal blazing sun spell was only about 100,000 yuan. The points invested in transfiguration this time are much higher than those invested in the luminescent spell. He believed that the magic animagus transfiguration deduced by deep blue would never let him down at this moment. Unprecedented vast knowledge flooded into Charles' mind, which was even more than the sum of all the magical knowledge he had previously deduced. Even Charles felt a black screen in front of his eyes at this moment, and felt as if he was overwhelmed by knowledge, and lost consciousness for a while. When Charles woke up, he felt as if he was in another world. Then, a look of disbelief appeared in Charles' eyes, and he tried to wave his wand to perform basic transfiguration in his room. Countless objects began to change rapidly at speed and accuracy. A qualitative leap compared to the 3 times that Ciel deduced the animagus transfiguration technique. Ciel even felt that he could now accomplish the same trick that Voldemort had shown him before. His basic transfiguration skills might have been able to catch up with or even surpass Dumbledore's level when he graduated. After thinking for a moment, Charles' face showed enlightenment. Animagus transfiguration is, after all, a branch of transfiguration. I have continued to deduce it and pushed it to an unprecedented level. The knowledge I have gained in this process will of course also feed back to my overall level of transfiguration. After the second deduction, my transfiguration should have improved a lot, but I didn't notice it for a while because I didn't pay attention to it. This time, after 3 more deductions, the change is so obvious that it cannot be ignored. It gives me a feeling of a leap forward. Then, Charles took a deep breath and clenched his hands. Just the knowledge gained during the 3 simulations has been of great benefit to me. What about the real product of those 3 deductions, the magical animagus transfiguration? The next moment, a deep blue reminder sound like the sound of nature rang out in Charles' mind. Transfiguration. Animagus direction, 3 deductions completed. The Host has obtained the magical animagus transfiguration, which can break through the barriers recognized by the magic world, and transform from a wizard into a magical animal. The host has all the characteristics of the magical animal he has changed into, and can even obtain some of the inherited knowledge of magical animals, feeling the information of the magic animagus transfiguration. Ciel took a deep breath and felt a little dazed for a moment. A miracle that was considered impossible in the magic world was successfully deduced by Deep Blue. If this were to be made public, Ciel would surely become an immortal monument in the field of transfiguration in the magical world, and the history of magic would have to include a separate chapter for Ciel to commemorate his great achievements. After a moment, Charles came back to his senses and obtained more detailed information. Since the magic animagus transfiguration involves the transformation of the essence of magic, in order to transform into a designated magical animal, you need to first obtain its blood for analysis, and then you can transform freely. The current magic animagus transfiguration technique allows the host to transform into 3 types of magical animals at most. With subsequent deductions, the magic animagus transfiguration technique will be completely perfected. The host will be able to freely transform into any magical animal, and even transform into a mythical creature with the characteristics of multiple magical animals at the same time. When he saw these lines of information, Charles frowned at first. Do we need to obtain the blood of magical animals for analysis first? And currently, it can only transform into 3 magical animals at most, and cannot directly change into 1,000 ordinary animals like a complete animagus transformation. This is still somewhat different from the magical animagus that he expected to be able to freely transform magical creatures. It seems that 3 deductions are not enough in this direction, and perhaps 4 or even 5 deductions are needed. But after a moment of disappointment, Charles focused his attention on Shinlin's description, and his eyes gradually brightened. After turning into some kind of magical animal, not only can one inherit its characteristics, but one can even obtain the inherited knowledge. The intelligence of some magical animals is not inferior to that of humans, and in certain magical fields they are far beyond the reach of wizards. It can even be said that they have become a kind of system. For example, dragon language. This is a language that is recognized by the magic world as possessing powerful magic. Legend has it that in ancient times, when ancient dragons frequently appeared, there were giant dragons that could cast magic in dragon language. Their roars could shatter mountains and clouds, and even cause all things to revive or wither. However, as the ancient dragons disappeared, their descendants, the fire dragons in the current magical world, seemed like illiterate people. Most fire dragons haven't even inherited the true dragon language, and those that have inherited the dragon language are rarely able to cast magic in it. After all, in today's magical world, fire dragons are a strictly controlled resource, and their blood, flesh, nerves, etc. are all of great use to wizards. The vast majority of fire dragons are kept in captivity, and it is basically impossible for them to grow up safely to the point where they can cast dragon language magic. But an idea came into Ciel's mind. If I become a fire dragon and gain the inheritance of the dragon language, Deep Blue, can you operate in my magical animagus state and continue to deduce the dragon language, even making the legendary dragon language magic reappear in the world? In response, Deep Blue gave a brief mechanical reply. As long as the deduction points are sufficient, the system is omnipotent. After these words were spoken, Charles couldn't help but wave his fist excitedly. In this case, the prospects for magical animagus are truly huge. If you screen carefully, the current magic animagus alone can allow Ciel to obtain 3 types of magic from magical animals. If the dragon language alone is deduced to the level of dragon magic, then the animagus of a Char is equivalent to the reappearance of the legendary ancient dragon. You can even touch peak Dumbledore or peak Voldemort. With 3 kinds of magical animagus and 3 sets of magic systems to switch between, plus Ciel's own deductive magic, there is almost no weakness. What is a hexagonal warrior? After the excitement, Ciel began to think about where to get a piece of magical animal blood that met the requirements to complete his first magical animagus. This magical animal must be strong enough. At the same time, in order to consider the upper limit, the bloodline must also have inherited knowledge. For this reason, it is best if it is a little older. Chapter 43. I don't even know I'm going to do it, so who else knows? When thinking of this condition, the first thing that came to Ciel's mind was the 1,000-year-old basilisk in the Chamber of Secrets of Hogwarts. This ancient magical creature has lived for 1,000 years. Although it is not certain whether it has inherited some kind of knowledge similar to dragon language or mermaid language, The basilisk's death gaze alone is of great value for speculation. It is highly likely to be used as material for the deduction of the killing curse, saving a lot of points for the deduction of the killing curse if he continues to deduce like this. Maybe Charles will be able to directly deduce a range killing curse. However, we can only make plans after entering Hogwarts, and we cannot get a basilisk at the moment. Besides, apart from the eternal blazing sun curse, Charles really has no other good means to deal with this kind of large magical beast. The power of basic transfiguration is indeed not enough to face the basilisk. Taking into account the anti-magic effect of the basilisk's scales and skin, the laser spell may not be able to kill it quickly if the battle drags on. The risks will be great, as the basilisk's venom and gaze are too deadly. Besides, if the noise is too loud, it might attract Dumbledore's attention. Charles didn't want to risk so many unexpected situations, so he had to plan carefully to obtain the basilisk's blood. But besides the blood of the basilisk, there seems to be another option that is even more suitable than the basilisk, and the opportunity to obtain it is just around the corner. In Charles' mind, the image of the fire dragon guarding the basement of Gringotts in the original novel emerged. It was a Ukrainian iron belly. Judging from the description in the original book, its body was extremely large, and even its scales showed signs of aging, indicating that it was very old. If you obtain its blood, there is a high probability that the animagus will also be able to inherit the dragon language in its blood after transformation. A strange look flashed across Charles' eyes. He had been eyeing Gringotts from the beginning, intending to take advantage of the chaos caused by Quirrell and Voldemort breaking into Gringotts to make some fortune. But after making huge gains in Nocturne Alley, this idea faded a little. But now, it seems that I have to go to Gringotts. The dragon's blood is too tempting for Charles. However, in the original book, Quirrell and Voldemort seem to have broken into Gringotts by using the Imperious Curse and other means, without causing much noise, and most likely did not fight the dragon. If that's the case, it will be a bit troublesome for me to get dragon blood. Dragons' skin and scales can weaken spells. Charles' methods are very effective against ordinary wizards, but apart from the Eternal Sun spell, he is not sure that he can break the fire dragon's defense. After all, he is only 11 years old, and magic power is always a flaw. But because of this, the magic animagus is even more tempting to seal. The magic power of magical animals is much stronger than that of little wizards in terms of absolute destructive power. Unless Ciel uses the Eternal Sun spell, his wizard form cannot catch up with the magical animagus state. This makes Charles even more determined to get the dragon's blood under Gringotts. This will be his biggest trump card. After thinking for a moment, Charles whispered softly, "It seems that this time, we really can't let Quirrell and Voldemort break in too easily. We need to make a bigger fuss and use Voldemort to get the dragon's blood." As for what to do, Charles already has an idea. The next moment, he used full animagus transformation, but this time he didn't turn into an animal, but just like Twinks's animagus transformation, he changed his appearance and body shape and turned into another person. It was a thin figure with a pale complexion and a somewhat timid look. The most noticeable feature was that his head was wrapped in a large turban. That's right, Charles turned into Quirrell. In order to make it more realistic, Charles even transformed Voldemort's face on the back of Quirrell's head. After doing all this, Ciel's lips curled up into a smile. He slowly walked through Diagon Alley in the middle of the night and came to the closed gate of Gringotts. With a wave of the wand, a letter turned into a paper airplane and flew towards Gringotts. Then without any delay, Charles disapparated away. The loud noise of apparition disturbed the silence of Gringotts at night, and the goblins who were still counting money inside rushed out in a hurry and full of vigilance. The leading goblin saw the paper airplane on the ground, and after taking it apart, he saw the words inside. "I've heard that Gringotts has countless treasures, and I'm longing for it. The moonlight is very good these days, so I'm going to come here on the moon and enter Gringotts to take the treasure." The thief saint of the magic world. When the goblins in Gringotts saw the letter, anger showed on their faces. Thief, a despicable, arrogant thief. He actually openly challenged us at Gringotts, saying he was going to break into Gringotts and steal. The leading goblin looked towards the sentry responsible for guarding Gringotts. "Did you see who left this letter?" The sentry said quickly. "It was too dark, so I couldn't see his face clearly, but I could see he was wearing a large turban." As soon as these words came out, the leading goblin spoke in a cold voice. "During this period, the security measures of the underground vault have been raised to the highest level, and everyone, pay attention. If you see someone wearing a turban coming to Gringotts, it's very likely that they are thieves scouting the area." There was a fierce look in their eyes. "Then pretend you don't know," trick him into the underground vault, and then kill him, provoking Gringotts? He must pay with his life. At the same time, in a room, Quirrell's eyes widened because of an order from Voldemort. Master, are we going to break into Gringotts tomorrow? Isn't this too hasty? Voldemort said coldly. Are you questioning my decision? I'm telling you, I've had enough of this kind of life. Damn Dumbledore, I'm going to recover my body as soon as possible and teach him a lesson. Then, considering that Quirrell was the only one available at the moment, Voldemort explained to him, of course, it was a bit tasty, but you have to know that even you couldn't have imagined that I would break into Gringotts tomorrow, so how could anyone else know? Great. Success is often achieved in haste. The goblins of Gringotts will not be prepared tomorrow. Quirrell thought about it and immediately admired Voldemort's wisdom. As expected of you, Master. You are indeed far-sighted. We will surely be able to succeed in tomorrow's operation, once the Philosopher's Stone is in hand and the Master has regained his physical body. What will Dumbledore be? And that damned little wizard Ciel will definitely crawl at the feet of his master. Chapter 44, How did the magical world become like this? That morning, not long after Gringotts opened, Quirrell and Voldemort came to Gringotts. Voldemort explained to Quirrell again how they were going to break into Gringotts today. You pretend to be conducting business and find a high-ranking goblin in Gringotts. Then I will control your body and use the Imperious Curse to have it take us to the underground vault. It's that simple. Have you brought all the gold galleons? Quirrell nodded nervously, gripping the purse at his waist with extra force in order to carry out Voldemort's plan to break into Gringotts and seize the Philosopher's Stone. He mortgaged all his current assets through the black market overnight and borrowed a large number of gold galleons, thinking of the interest on black market loans. Quirrell's heart bleeds, but thinking again that this was a sacrifice for the great return of his master, Quirrell felt that it was all worth it. When Voldemort returns, he will definitely receive unimaginable rewards. Besides, these goblins in Gringotts would never have imagined in their dreams that Voldemort would personally break into Gringotts. How else could this be? Non-existent. Thinking of this, Quirrell calmed down, stepped into Gringotts, took out his purse and shook it, then said to the goblins, I want to handle a big business, and I need your lobby manager. When the goblins saw Quirrell, especially Quirrell's big turban, there was a cold look in their eyes. The guy with the big turban looked like this last night. The note the thief left yesterday clearly said that he would enter Gringotts under the moonlight to retrieve the treasure, but now he is coming in the daytime? It seems that the letter was meant to paralyze Gringotts and make them relax their guard during the day. He is indeed a cunning thief. Not a single word he says can be trusted. The lobby manager of Gringotts came over quickly, with no clue on his face, and spoke to Quirrell enthusiastically. Dear guest, congratulations. This transaction is the 100,000th transaction Gringotts has received this year. In order to give back to new and old customers, Gringotts has decided to give you an underground vault for free. You can choose the location, and it will be free forever. Would you like to come and pick one with me now? Hearing this, Quirrell was stunned for a moment, and then he couldn't help but feel a surge of joy in his heart. The underground vault in Gringotts is not cheap and is very rare. Those who can own an underground vault here are either from an ancient family or are rich and powerful. Although Quirrell was an outstanding graduate of Hogwarts, he had not been able to build an underground vault in Gringotts over the years. He never thought that he would be so lucky today to be able to get it as a gift, and for free forever. The most important thing is, has the crucial step in breaking into Gringotts, entering the underground vault, been solved just like that? This is so lucky. Quirrell couldn't help but say to Voldemort in his heart, Master, we are so lucky. Now it will be effortless to get the Philosopher's Stone. This must be the luck that my master has brought me by temporarily staying in my body. Great Master, great Dark Lord, Voldemort said calmly. Okay, look at your useless look. An underground vault makes you so excited. Once I have rebuilt my body, it will be easy for me to give you the treasury of an ancient family, let alone an underground treasury. Quick, let the goblin take you into the underground vault. When Quirrell heard Voldemort's promise, he was so grateful that he burst into tears and quickly followed the lobby manager of Gringotts to the underground vault. At this time, the goblins on the side also surrounded Quirrell and walked down. Killua was still sighing in his heart. Is this the VIP treatment at Gringotts? It is truly a wonderful experience for those wealthy and powerful wizards to be surrounded by such people every time they come. But soon, I will also be part of the most powerful and richest wizards. Soon, Riding on the goblin's railcar, Quirrell arrived at the entrance of the underground vault. Here, a group of goblins are ready for battle. At first, Quirrell thought that these goblins were there to greet him as a lucky customer, and he nodded to them, but the next moment, at the end of the passage, a huge figure crawled through, and it was emitting a burning sensation before it got close. This was the Ukrainian iron belly that guarded the underground vault of Gringotts, and it was let out by the goblins. When Ciel saw this scene, he looked flattered. Such a big battle, Gringotts. Hospitality is truly grand. However, the next moment, the goblins looked at Quirrell with cold sneers and ridicule. You idiot, you don't really think we are here to greet you and give you an expensive underground vault? There was a fierce look in their eyes. Today, you will die in the basement of Gringotts, buried in the dragon's belly. Hearing these words, Quirrell was stunned, and Voldemort, who was possessed by Quirrell, was also stunned. No, that's not how the script goes. What the hell is going on? Quirrell exclaimed in a trembling voice. Master, our plan has been exposed. Voldemort reacted very quickly and rebuked Quirrell in a decisive tone. Nonsense, the plan was decided on at the last minute. I didn't expect that Gringotts would be invaded so soon. How could the goblins in Gringotts know about this? Could it be that I leaked the secret to Gringotts? It seems that there is only one answer. Grillets. Goblins, are you trying to kill us for money? Ciel let out an in surprise. Killing for money, Gringotts? To me, master, this is not right, Voldemort said coldly. What else could it be? Besides, these guys are goblins, greedy goblins. What can't they do for gold galleons? At this time, before Quirrell and Voldemort could say anything, rays of magic light burst out from the hands of the goblins and whizzed towards Quirrell. Ciel's scalp tingled. He is indeed a pretty good wizard, but there is no way he can withstand the siege of so many goblins at this point. Voldemort directly took over Quirrell's body with a wave of the magic wand. Terrifying magical power was released. Anger was boiling in his chest. It's only been a dozen years since I left the wizarding world, and Dumbledore and his students have slandered me behind my back, even claiming that all my magic was plagiarized from him. It's so shameless. I heard before that a dark wizard was conducting human experiments wantonly and killed dozens of people, but the aurors of the Ministry of Magic were helpless. Now, Gringotts is actually willing to trick customers into its underground vault and murder them for less than 1,000 galleons. How the hell has the wizarding world become like this? Chapter 45 Great Harvest. Fire Dragon Transformation. A surge of rage surged in Voldemort's heart. The current state of the wizarding world was simply intolerable to him. Filthy, dirty, and stinking. Once I have rebuilt my body and cleansed it, I will cleanse the entire wizarding world. I want to make the wizarding world great again. Immediately, Voldemort looked at the goblins that surrounded him. I originally wanted to save some strength, but seeing you despicable things, I just can't stand it anymore. Goblins are lowly creatures that suck the blood of the wizarding world and play with the gold coins. If I were in charge of the wizarding world, I would have wiped you all out and turned you all into house elves. The next moment, as if venting the anger in his heart, raging flames gushed out from the tip of Voldemort's wand, turning into a snake tide that swept in all directions. It was fiend fire. As the fierce fire spread, green lights shot out, reaping the lives of the goblins like the god of death, until a loud dragon roar exploded in the underground vault, and blazing flames swept towards Voldemort. Voldemort also snorted angrily, and swung his wand, tearing apart the dragon's breath and scales along with it. In an instant, dragon blood splattered and the fire dragon's wailing sounded. Inside Gringotts, a flying insect flew into the underground vault through the passage opened by the goblins, and then turned into the appearance of Charles. Charles' eyes showed emotion under normal circumstances. Even if his animagus transformation skills were superb, it would not be so easy to break into the underground vault of Gringotts. But now, with Voldemort leading the way, the journey is smooth. After entering the underground vault, Charles could already feel the strong magical aura coming from the front, and the ground was shaking from time to time. After a moment, everything returned to silence. Charles walked carefully along the passage and soon saw the scene where a battle had broken out in the underground vault. On the battlefield, goblin corpses were everywhere, and the few survivors were in a deep coma, with extreme fear on their faces, as if they were facing some extremely terrifying existence. As for Quirrell and Voldemort, they are no longer here. I guess they have gone deep into the underground vault to look for the Philosopher's Stone. At this moment, Charles turned his eyes and saw a huge figure lying on the ground. This is none other than the guard of Gringotts' underground vault, the Ukrainian Iron Belly Fire Dragon. But at this moment, It looked extremely miserable. A huge wound tore open its scales and flesh, and dragon blood kept flowing out even for a dragon. This is extremely serious damage, making it lose the ability to fight of course. Even if it could still fight, I believe that after seeing Voldemort's power, this fire dragon would not be able to get up with its seriously injured body and fight for the goblins. Feeling the fatigue all over his body due to the massive blood loss, the Ukrainian Iron Belly fire dragon closed his eyes. Given the dragon's strong physique, such a wound is not fatal to it, but it will definitely require a long sleep to heal. But at this moment, it felt a rustling noise, as if something small was approaching it. In an instant, the orange vertical pupils widened again, glaring at the offender who dared to disturb him. The one who entered the Ukrainian Iron Belly fire dragon's alert range was naturally Charles. The Ukrainian Iron Belly fire dragon slowly raised its snake-like neck, and a fierce light appeared in its eyes, as if it was going to tear Charles to pieces in the next moment, or burn him to ashes with a scorching dragon flame. Again Charles looked at the Ukrainian Iron Belly fire dragon and made an estimate in his mind. With Voldemort breaking the dragon's defense, it should not be difficult for me to kill the dragon by following the wounds left by Voldemort. But look at this fire dragon. The dragon scales all over the body, the dragon blood that can be continuously regenerated, and even the dead skin on the dragon claws. Those are all magical raw materials and an excellent source of deduction points. Killed? What a pity. If we can get along well with it, let it bleed a little from time to time and rub its feet, then wouldn't the deduction points increase rapidly? Immediately, Charles pointed at the wound on the Ukrainian Iron Belly fire dragon with a sincere look on his face. Mr. Huolong, you are injured and it must be very painful. I can help you stop the bleeding. The fire dragon seemed to understand what Charles said, and perhaps because Charles looked like a child, it was not so wary, and the constant blood loss really made it very tired and weak. The fierce light in its eyes gradually dissipated, and it stared at Charles, as if tacitly agreeing to Charles's offer to treat it. Ciel's face lit up with delight and he waved his wand. Immediately, a huge funnel was attached to the wound of the Ukrainian Iron Belly fire dragon. Below the funnel, Charles also conjured up a huge glass bottle, and dragon blood was continuously flowing into it through the funnel. The fire dragon's body stiffened for a moment, and confusion appeared in its human-like eyes. Is this to stop bleeding? How can you stop bleeding with a funnel? Charles said very sincerely. Mr. Huolong, I know you are very suspicious, but please think carefully. You had such a big wound bleeding before, but now the funnel is stuck on the wound, and there is only a small funnel mouth left where the blood is flowing. Just tell me, has the bleeding area become smaller? The fire dragon stood there in a daze, its eyes rolling around, as if it was thinking with its intelligence. Yes, the bleeding area seems to have become smaller, which seems to make sense at this time. Charles continued, and I collect dragon blood for you, Mr. Fire Dragon. If we don't collect the blood, won't it just flow into the ground in vain? Collect it in a bottle, and you can drink it later to replenish your blood. If you round it up, isn't it the same as not bleeding? Do you think it makes sense? The fire dragon suddenly realized, indeed, that makes sense. He is indeed a human child. Even though he does not have enough magic power to stop the bleeding himself, he actually came up with such a good idea. So smart. The Ukrainian Iron Belly fire dragon looked at Charles with a softened gaze. It lay down obediently and let down its guard against Charles' human cub. Nice guy. Soon, the large glass bottles that Charles conjured up were filled with 5 large bottles of dragon blood. At this time, the dragon's powerful self-healing ability was fully demonstrated. The wound had coagulated into blood and no longer bleeds. Only then did Charles reluctantly collect all the holes in glass bottles. These 5 bottles of dragon blood were definitely more than enough for him to complete the first fire dragon transformation of the magical animagus. The remaining ones can be recycled as deduction points, making a lot of money. But at this time, Charles also heard Bent's footsteps coming from the entrance above. I guess the news from Gringotts has spread and support is on the way. In fact, Charles could have left, but he turned his head and looked deep into the underground vault. Voldemort must have opened Dumbledore's vault, but did not find the Philosopher's Stone. Voldemort also did not value the other materials in the vault and would certainly not take them away, but Charles likes it, because it is Dumbledore's treasure. It just so happens that Voldemort is the one to take the blame, so why not do it? Then, a high-frequency laser burst out from the tip of Charles' wand and slashed towards the shackles on the Ukrainian Iron Belly fire dragon. In the original book, Harry and others' magic can untie the chains, so naturally Charles' high-frequency laser spell can work as well. In an instant, the iron chain made a crisp sound and fell to the ground. The Ukrainian Iron Belly opened its eyes wide, tried to move its body, and found that the restraints that once restrained it had disappeared. Ciel patted the Ukrainian iron belly's paw. "Hey, you're free, fly. I've memorized your smell. I'll come play with you when I'm free." The Ukrainian iron-bellied fire dragon snorted loudly with sparks, obviously very happy, and looked at Charles with extremely gentle eyes. Then it spread its wings, seemingly oblivious to the weakness and fatigue in its body. The fire dragon flapped its wings and flew away, and dragon flames gushed towards the front of the passage. The dense footsteps coming from afar immediately came to a halt, and the entire deployment was disrupted by the actions of the Ukrainian iron belly fire dragon. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Charles turned into a bird and flew forward along the underground vault passage at the fastest speed. After a moment, he saw the door of vault number 713, which was wide open. Voldemort and Quirrell had already left, and the vault without the Philosopher's Stone was of no interest to Voldemort, but the dazzling array of materials left here made Charles' breathing quicken. Charles took out several boxes cast with the untraceable extension charm that he had prepared long ago, and quickly packed up everything in vault 713 and took it away. Then with a loud bang, Charles parried it away when he hurried back to the room in the leaky cauldron, looking at the box full of dragon's blood and precious magical materials. There was only one thought left in Charles' mind: it's true. It's real. The money of those poor fellows in Nocturne Alley combined is not as much as Dumbledore's vault. He took a deep breath, and his eyes moved away from those precious magical materials and fell on the 5 large bottles of dragon blood. Magic. Animagus. Fire dragon transformation. I am coming. The next moment, Charles pulled out the cork, gulped down a mouthful of dragon blood, and roared in his mind, "Deep Blue, explain it to me." Chapter 46. Angry Dumbledore. Analysis completed. Hold head high. A deafening roar of a fire dragon sounded, and billowing dragon flames raged in the underground vault passage of Gringotts, sweeping in the goblins who survived the battle with Voldemort and turning them into ashes. Then there were violent collisions again and again. A large amount of oil fell, and a ray of light shone into the underground vault. When seeing that ray of light, magic power burst out again from the exhausted body of the Ukrainian iron belly fire dragon. It violently smashed the gap open, creating a huge hole, then spread its wings and flew out of the dark underground vault. The Aurors who came from the Ministry of Magic to support watched this scene unwillingly. Some young Aurors wanted to chase the dragon, but the more experienced Aurors stopped them immediately. The Department for the Control of Magical Creatures is responsible for handling dragons, and the primary mission is to protect Gringotts' underground vault. Most of the magic world's wealth is stored here, including the wealth of many nobles and higher-ranking officials. If something happened in Gringotts, these Aurors who came to support would definitely be in trouble. The fire dragon has wasted a lot of their time, so they have to hurry to the underground vault to see what's going on. The Aurors kept praying in their hearts, hoping that the door of Gringotts' underground vault would be more reliable than the protective measures they boasted about, or at least not cause too much damage. After a while, all the vaults were inspected. A young Auror hurried over to the person in charge. "Boss, I have good news and bad news. Which one do you want to hear first?" The person in charge was stunned for a moment and wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. "Good news? Let's hear the good news first, then." The young Auror spoke. Of the entire underground vault, only one vault was looted, and the others were intact. Hearing this, the person in charge let out a long sigh and looked relieved. In this way, it will not cause too much impact. Even if someone wants to be held accountable, it is Gringotts that has to bear the responsibility, and has nothing to do with the Aurors who came to support. What? If you still want to investigate why the Aurors were slow in providing support and why so much time was wasted along the way, then he would let the doubters know why Aurors are the violent agency in the wizarding world. The person in charge calmly asked the young Auror, "What about the bad news? Whose vault was looted?" The next moment, the name uttered by the young Auror made the expression of the person in charge suddenly stiffen. "What's the matter, Dumbledore?" Percent at a series of indistinct curses came out from the person in charge. He couldn't figure out which idiot was so desperate that he dared to rob Dumbledore's vault. Exclamation mark. Then, after recovering from the news, the person in charge looked solemn. "Since it is Dumbledore's vault, it is definitely impossible to evade or perfunctorily deal with it. Send a message to Hogwarts and inform Dumbledore." At the same time, in the headmaster's office at Hogwarts, Dumbledore stood with his hands behind his back, pacing in the office with his eyes closed, thinking in his mind what kind of test he should give to his savior Harry Potter in the first year of school. The mirror of erased. "This is necessary. If I had used this mirror to examine Tom Riddle earlier, I would have had a clearer understanding of his evil. I might even have seen through his desire for life and power in advance and prevented him from committing a series of horrific crimes later. It is also necessary to create some emotional ties for Harry Potter so that he can have friendships and family ties at Hogwarts. He happens to be James' child, so he should have inherited James' Quidditch talent. If he performs well in the flying class, McGonagall can apply for him to join the Quidditch team as an exception. Well, of course, the Philosopher's Stone is also necessary. Such a powerful magical item can show whether Harry Potter has a morbid desire for money, power and immortality. As Dumbledore muttered to himself, the arrangements for Harry Potter's first year gradually became clear. However, in the headmaster's office, a portrait of the headmaster couldn't help but ask Dumbledore, "Dumbledore, if you think someone is coveting your underground vault, why did you only move the Philosopher's Stone and not move other things out in your underground vault? Besides your personal collection, there are also some resources from Hogwarts that you will keep for safekeeping. If Gringotts is really robbed and the thief steals these, it will be a troublesome matter." Dumbledore smiled slightly at this. After so many years, he has gained an incomparable insight into human nature. If anyone coveted the Philosopher's Stone, it was Voldemort, and Voldemort must not be interested in anything other than the Philosopher's Stone. He even felt that with his current status and fame, it would be a loss of face if he were to commit the same theft as he did in the past. Because of this, Voldemort would never touch anything other than the Philosopher's Stone, so why bother moving them out? It's quite troublesome to move around. Dumbledore gave a confident reply to the inquiry about the portrait of the headmaster in his office. "Don't worry, everything is under my control." At this moment, an owl fluttered to the window of the principal's office and dropped an urgent notice from the Aurors of the Ministry of Magic. Dumbledore blinked. "It looks like a report from the Ministry of Magic has arrived. Let me guess. It should be telling me that Gringotts was broken into and my vault was opened, but nothing was lost inside." Then Dumbledore opened the envelope and saw a thick stack of papers inside. Dumbledore was stunned for a moment, then smiled. "It seems that the Ministry of Magic is very serious and responsible this time. This must have explained to me the whole process of the thief's crime." Then he opened the letter, but when the first line of words came into view, Dumbledore's expression changed and the smile on his face froze on the spot. "It is with great sadness that we inform you, Headmaster Albus Dumbledore, that due to the poor guarding of the goblins at Gringotts, your underground vault numbered 713 has been looted. Remaining items, none. The list of items that have been confirmed to be stolen and the list to be confirmed are as follows. Please check." Dumbledore rubbed his eyes vigorously, suspecting that his eyesight was blurry, but when he saw the long list of thefts again, Dumbledore couldn't help but stagger. "Gone. All gone. Is there really not a single hair left?" Dumbledore's expression was extremely interesting, even showing a rare bit of gnashing of teeth. Tom Riddle, shameless, insidious, greedy. The veins on Dumbledore's hand that was holding the Elder Wand bulged, and a cold look filled his eyes. He had originally planned to avoid taking any action during Harry Potter's first year, and to have the professors arrange as many test levels as possible for Harry Potter, but now he has changed his mind. "Tom, after all these years, you've angered me again." At the same time, the shocking news of the theft at Gringotts was also reported in the Daily Prophet as soon as possible. The news that dozens of goblins died in the invasion of Gringotts and Dumbledore's vault was looted made the front page headlines, even with a photo of the empty underground vault number 713. A thin, pale hand slammed down the newly purchased Daily Prophet. Quirrell's face showed fear. Master, please calm down." But Voldemort's angry roar could not be suppressed at all, and it echoed in Quirrell's soul. "Slander. This is a shameful slander. I admit that I killed dozens of goblins, but when did I rob Dumbledore's vault? I even took a picture of the vault being empty? Bullshit. When I left, the vault was still full of stuff." Quirrell said cautiously. "Master, could it be that someone followed us and robbed the vault while we were away, and made us take the blame?" This speculation caused Voldemort to sneer. "You idiot, isn't this obvious enough? Dumbledore is the headmaster of Hogwarts. According to convention, a portion of Hogwarts resources can be kept by the headmaster, as long as they can be taken out when the board of directors reconciles the accounts. Obviously, that old B. Dumbledore is taking advantage of our break-in into Gringotts to settle the score here." "What? A thief crying thief? What, a thief lining his own pockets?" "Dumbledore, over the past decade, you have become more and more shameless, and this magical world Don't you have the ability to think independently? You are a bunch of idiots. There was an obvious sense of gnashing of teeth in Voldemort's voice. I can't stand it anymore. When I return, I will cleanse the entire wizarding world of those who have no ability to think, those who believe everything they hear, especially the group of stupid and evil reporters from the Daily Prophet. Clean, clean, clean thoroughly. And Dumbledore, wait, old B, I will completely expose your hypocritical mask. Just when Dumbledore and Voldemort were feeling extremely disappointed and angry with each other, Charles, the culprit who looted the vault, was sipping dragon blood in big gulps. The scorching dragon's lair poured into the abdomen from the throat, but disappeared without a trace in an instant, turning into deep blue material for analyzing dragon magic. A lot of reminders sounded in Charles' mind. Dragon magic analysis progress 10%, dragon magic analysis progress 30%. Finally, there was a mechanical prompt from Deep Blue. Analysis of dragon magic is complete. A dragon roar like thunder also exploded in Charles' mind. The magic animagus, which is known as an impossible miracle in the field of transfiguration, has been completely completed. At this moment, Charles suddenly opened his eyes. Golden, dazzling vertical pupils appeared in his eyes, exuding a terrifying dragon power. Chapter 47 Dragon Language Magic, Roar of Power. I am still too conscientious. In a forest outside London, a figure was moving at high speed through the woods. This figure was naturally Charles, and the speed he was moving at this moment had completely surpassed the scope of human beings. When Deep Blue finished analyzing the dragon magic and completely completed the magical animagus transformation, Ciel felt an endless stream of powerful magic surging through his body. It was like a young fire dragon coming into the world for the first time, unable to wait to flap its wings, fly into the air, and spit out dragon flames. He then hurried out of the leaky cauldron and apparated to the woods outside London, looking for a suitable place to perform his first magical animagus transfiguration. Finally, when he saw an open space in the woods, Ciel relaxed and fully activated the magic animagus transformation. In an instant, magic power surged and raged in his body like a volcano erupting. The dragon's roar in my mind rolled in like thunder. Charles felt his whole body getting hot. Then he felt his vision rising, and he felt a strong power filling his body. By the time Charles came to his senses, he could already see dragon wings on both sides of his vision. Out of the corner of his eye he raised his hand, and what came into view was a dragon claw covered with scales. Ciel took a deep breath and let out a roar of joy, and it was the roar of a fire dragon. Magic animagus, fire dragon transformation, complete. Today, Charles has turned into a young Ukrainian iron belly fire dragon. As one of the largest species of fire dragons in the magical world, even in its infancy, Charles is now nearly 5 meters long, making it already a top predator in the magical world. When the wings flapped, a strong wind whistled in the woods, enough to blow people to and fro with a casual swing of its sharp claws. Several trees as thick as bowls were broken, and when Charles spewed dragon flames into the sky, flames that were more than 10 meters long roared into the air, bringing rolling heat waves. Experiencing the fighting power in the fire dragon form, Charles' eyes showed satisfaction. This is indeed a dangerous and magical animal with amazing lethality, and its every inch is built for fighting. In terms of pure destructive power, Charles in fire dragon form is far superior to his human form without using the eternal blazing sun curse. Moreover, its body is covered with thick scales, which can greatly weaken both physical and magical damage. In this way, when facing large magical animals, Charles's weakness of insufficient destructive power can be compensated, and he can fight the enemy in the form of a fire dragon. And when facing wizards, Charles can easily deal with various spells in his human form. His overall strength has undoubtedly increased significantly. However, Ciel's goal is not just to transform into a fire dragon. After all, although magical animals like fire dragons are powerful and dangerous, they have become a captive resource in the magical world. For example, there are dragon farms in Romania, where various types of fire dragons are kept in captivity. The purpose of raising dragons in captivity is very simple. Dragon meat, dragon blood, dragon heart, dragon nerves, etc. are all excellent magical materials. Even during the True Wizard tournament, so many different kinds of fire dragons were easily mobilized, which is enough to prove that wizards have many ways to deal with fire dragons. Just turning into a fire dragon can increase the combat effectiveness in a short period of time, but in the long run, the prospects are really not good, and it is far less dangerous than the Nangdu leopard or Khmer. It's far worse than the basilisk. But Charles chose to obtain the blood of the Ukrainian iron belly fire dragon because it was the oldest and largest dragon Charles knew of. and was also the most likely to have the dragon language heritage. Using its blood to transform into an animagus would give Ciel a great chance of inheriting the bloodline. The real dragon language can be deduced all the way to dragon language magic once the dragon language magic is mastered. The fire dragon becomes a special kind of extinct existence, the ancient dragon. Compared to fire dragons that can only use their claws and breath, ancient dragons that can use magic are completely different beings. The numbers of ordinary wizards have lost their meaning in front of them. If Ciel could elevate his magical animagus form to the level of an ancient dragon, he would dare to confront Dumbledore and Voldemort head-on. Thoughts flashed through his mind, and Charles took a deep breath. The most important thing now is to see if he has obtained the dragon language inheritance in his blood. Even without the inheritance, with the help of Deep Blue, Charles could gradually deduce the dragon language, but then we can only use the wizard's research on dragon language as the thesis. There are too few reference materials and it consumes too many points if there is a legacy. Even if it is incomplete, deduction based on it can also reduce a lot of point consumption. Then, Charles concentrated on feeling the dragon blood flowing in his body and recalled the dragon roar that sounded in his mind during the process of transforming into a fire dragon. Gradually, the dragon's blood seemed to become boiling hot again. The dragon roar in his mind sounded again like thunder. But unlike the previous one, which seemed far away and unclear, this time the dragon roar seemed closer. As Ciel listened attentively, although many of the syllables were still unclear, Charles did hear a clear and complete syllable. Its meaning also emerged clearly in Charles' mind. Strength. This dragon roar is the syllable that represents power in the dragon language. It is also the most basic syllable of dragon language magic. Dragon language magic is famous for its incomparable power. Bloodline inheritance is really here. At the same time, Deep Blue also sounded a reminder. The host has obtained the dragon language inheritance that can deduce the broken knowledge, the roar of power. At this moment, Charles couldn't help but burst into laughter. Broken inheritance, let it be broken. I have Deep Blue, and the broken inheritance can still be deduced and completed, or even innovated. Not only can the dragon language magic reappear in the world, but it can also reach the pinnacle. Isn't it just possible to spend more points? Compared to the recorded power of dragon language magic, it's all worth it. Besides, he still had 80,000 points left on hand. Adding the gains from Dumbledore's vault, the total would be at least several 100,000 points. He was simply rich. Deducing dragon language magic, that's enough. The next moment, Deep Blue sounded the reminder again. The initial deduction of the roar of power requires 300,000 points. Do you want to deduce it? The smile on Charles' face gradually froze. Seize the young master. This is the fucking master. 300,000 points are needed for the preliminary deduction? That many points even with the inheritance, Deep Blue said. Without inheritance, 1,000,000 points may not be enough to deduce the roar of power from modern dragon language. Charles choked. Fuck. I even robbed the Gringotts vault. Why am I still so poor? If he digested all the gains he had obtained from Dumbledore's vault, the preliminary deduction would certainly be enough. But what about the follow-up? Wizards have done very little research on ancient dragons. Even a dragon language expert like Dumbledore has never heard of the use of any dragon language magic. Then the reference materials for dragon language magic are probably quite rare. Wouldn't each subsequent deduction require millions or even tens of millions of points? Thinking of that terrifying amount, Charles felt a headache. How long will it take me to save up so many points? It shouldn't be. I work so hard and never miss any opportunity to earn points. Why don't I have enough points? Charles fell into deep thought. Am I still too gentle? Then he nodded in agreement. Indeed, I am too conscientious and save too much money for the Ministry of Magic. Buying so many magic items and eating so many sketching quills in Diagon Alley is not as good as grabbing a unicorn horn or a real dragon's heart in Nocturne Alley. A moment later, Charles changed from a fire dragon into a human form and hurried back to Diagon Alley. He found the contact information of the dragon farm in Romania and wrote a letter. Starting today, I will order 10 dragons per month. The meat, blood, nerves, scales, etc. must be processed for me. The internal organs must also be preserved. The dragon dung will be made into dragon dung coffee. All the materials must be delivered to the leaky cauldron in Diagon Alley. All bills will be reimbursed by the British Ministry of Magic. If you have any questions, please ask Minister Fudge at the British Ministry of Magic. Money is not a problem, speed of delivery is the only thing. Chapter 48. Dumbledore must have done it. Quirrell, go and get some brain work done. Office of the Minister for Magic. Fudge and his staff were gathered together, each with a solemn look on their face. On the table were several newspaper reports on the theft at Gringotts, and Nate spoke with a heavy expression. This theft at Gringotts has had a huge impact on us, although this is Gringotts' problem. Gringotts is still part of the wizarding world after all. Gringotts, which has always been known to be indestructible, had dozens of goblins killed, and the underground vaults were broken into and robbed completely. The vault was actually the vault of Dumbledore, the headmaster of Hogwarts. This has caused panic in most wizards in the magic world. Some even speculated that this year is the year Harry Potter will enter school. Maybe the you-know-who will make a comeback at this time. They said that the looting of Dumbledore's vault was a demonstration by the you-know-who against the wizarding world and Dumbledore. Another 8 also took up the topic. There are also some people who scoff at the return of the mysterious man, but they think of the vicious black wizard Darkseid, too. Be honest, this is too disadvantageous for us, the minister, and we have only been in office for a short time, and we have seen such a cruel dark wizard and the theft at Gringotts. The wizarding world is in a state of panic, and many people are beginning to doubt that the current Ministry of Magic has lost control over the wizarding world. Those dark wizards are no longer afraid of the horrors of the Ministry of Magic. The legal authority of the Ministry of Magic is gradually collapsing, and along with it, our support rate is also collapsing. He considered it for a moment, then spoke carefully. If our approval rating continues to decline at this rate, we may be driven out of office soon. This heavy topic made everyone present feel like a huge rock was pressing on their hearts. Everyone was talking about what was going on. In order to show that we have the ability to punish evil, we must quickly catch the murderer who invaded Gringotts. Where are the orders? Any clues? The sooner we catch the thief, the sooner we can win back public opinion. But in response to their conversation, Fudge looked at them as if they were idiots. He finally couldn't bear it anymore and shouted loudly, "Are your heads filled with gold galleons and little witches? Murderer? Thief? There is no murderer or thief. Can't you see that?" The staff were all stunned and looked at Fudge, not understanding what he meant. Fudge sneered, with a look of understanding in his eyes. Invading Gringotts, killing dozens of goblins and severely damaging the dragon during the siege by goblins and dragons. Is this something an ordinary wizard can do? And then, after going through so much trouble to break in, they didn't rob the vaults of the nobles that were filled with gold coins, but went straight to Dumbledore's underground vault. Not a single hair was left. Don't you think this is unreasonable? Everyone knows Dumbledore's name. How brave must a thief be to rob Dumbledore's vault? If it were you, would you dare to rob the vault even if the door was open? Everyone present was shocked and looked at Fudge with surprise in their eyes. That seems to be the case. What thief would dare to rob Dumbledore's vault? Even the vicious dark wizard Dark, who is looking for smart people everywhere, didn't dare to target Dumbledore. A look of horror appeared on the face of an aide. Minister, could it really be the Dark Lord? Before he could finish his words, Fudge could no longer tolerate his stupidity, so he took out his water cup and threw it at the office door. Black. Your mother's head. I've said this much, don't you understand yet? There was no thief at all. The one who broke into Gringotts and robbed Dumbledore's vault was clearly Dumbledore himself. When these words came out, it was like thunder, and everyone gasped, strong and unafraid of Dumbledore's pursuit and revenge. It seems that Dumbledore himself best meets this condition. No way? So, what's the motive? Why would Dumbledore do such a thing? Some staff still find it hard to believe. In response, Fudge sneered again. You still need to ask? I think Dumbledore is still obsessed with the position of Minister of Magic. The crisis of the Dark Wizard Dark was resolved by my genius operation, which also successfully won us praise from the wizarding world. Dumbledore had no choice but to give up, and soon, Hogwarts will start its new term, and it will be time for the school board to reconcile the accounts. Dumbledore, the sinister old bee, did this to settle the account and create panic again. Humph, he can hide it from everyone, but he can never hide it from me. Fudge. The staff looked at each other, watching Fudge's expression change again. Isn't it? Has Fudge taken any brain-boosting medicine recently? He seems to have really become a genius. But Minister, how can we prove this? We can't prove what Dumbledore did, an aide said. Why don't we have the orders? Questioned Dumbledore, and check Dumbledore's office to see if they can find any clues. Before he could finish his words, the aura present had already flushed and was cursing, "Nema, why don't you go? Check if Dumbledore rehearsed this scene? If the problem is not detected, Dumbledore will hate him and he might die suddenly in secret one day. If the disease is found out during the examination, it will be even more tragic. I'm afraid I will die on the spot. Whoever wants to do this kind of work can do it." Just when several people were about to quarrel, Fudge showed an expression of disappointment. "You guys are stupid, really stupid. Why did I invite you to be my staff? Isn't this a simple matter?" Fudge told his plan. The things in Dumbledore's vault should have some kind of locating spell or something. At worst, with Dumbledore's magical attainments, he can easily find the traces. We will have Dumbledore cooperate with the Ministry of Magic Auras in the investigation and cast a spell to locate the items he lost. If Dumbledore refuses to cooperate, or makes excuses by saying that the locating spell is ineffective and that he cannot find any clues, then everything will be clear. Upon hearing this, everyone present couldn't help but applaud and admire. "Hi, it is hi. We will go and ask Dumbledore to cast a spell on the spot to locate the missing items." At the same time, in the room of the Leaky Cauldron, Charles, who had already placed an order for dragon food from the Romanian dragon farm, breathed a sigh of relief when the ingredients for the fire dragon are delivered. He will have another large source of deduction points add to that the various treasures looted from Dumbledore's vault, and the deduction points will become abundant again as to whether to deduce the dragon language magic, roar of power, or to deduce other magical knowledge. He is still undecided. Forget it. Let's eat first. There are only 80,000 deduction points left, not even 100,000. I feel very insecure. There are also things taken out of Dumbledore's vault. Maybe there is a locating spell, or Dumbledore may find a way to track us down. It is better to deal with it. It just so happens that the magic animagus has given me another use. There was a strange look in Ciel's eyes as he activated the animagus magic in the room. In an instant, a fire dragon nearly 5 meters long filled the room. Ciel changed into this form not for fighting, but for eating. His eating efficiency in human form was too low. Even if he was fed food on an assembly line, he could only eat a few bites at a time. But it was different when he turned into a fire dragon. In this form, when Ciel opened his mouth, he could eat a lamb in one bite. If it was the dragon heart he had obtained earlier, he wouldn't even need to use the laser spell to split it. He could just eat it in one bite. The same can be said of the gains from Dumbledore's vault. What would take half a day to eat in human form only takes one bite for Ciel in fire dragon form. The next moment, his claws hooked up the package containing the collection of Dumbledore's vault to be on the safe side and ensure that all traces were removed. Charles swallowed it whole with the package. After the package was put into the stomach, the deep blue mechanical prompt sound began to flash across the screen like an explosion. The total number of deduction points of Ciel began to rise wildly from 80,000, and even the numbers became blurred. When the numbers finally became clear, the total number of deduction points remained at one number: 670,000. Charles couldn't help but let out a scream. A wave of nearly 600,000 deduction points? This is even without the Philosopher's Stone. If the Philosopher's Stone is also in the vault, I'm afraid at least 1 0 will have to be added after the 600,000. By that time, would Charles still be worried that he would not have enough deduction points? Charles' eyes almost turned green. The Philosopher's Stone, I really want to take a bite and taste it. In his mind, he had already started thinking about how to get the Philosopher's Stone in his first year. Besides the Philosopher's Stone, there are many other good things in Hogwarts. The Mirror of Ease, if you smash it and chew it, it should be similar to shaved ice, crunchy and icy. And there's the three-headed dog. It's also very powerful. Even Quirrell, who was possessed by Voldemort, couldn't do anything about it. He could only go to Hagrid to find out the three-headed dog's weakness. If I were to nibble on a three-headed dog once a day, I should be able to eat for a long time. And there's the Devil's Snare. Hey, wouldn't it be great if we could find a place to breed them on a large scale? Of course, there's also the Tiara in the Room of Requirement. Eating it might not be worse than the Philosopher's Stone. Thinking of this, Charles was full of anticipation for life at Hogwarts and couldn't help but burst into laughter. At this moment, in a room on the first floor of the Leaky Cauldron, it was shrouded in various confusion spells and defensive spells, so strong that even old Tom, the owner of the Leaky Cauldron, Forgot that he had such a room. Quirrell looked suspicious, as if there was some noise coming from upstairs. It was like a low dragon roar. Master, did you hear any sound? Do you feel that the people living upstairs are not human? The next moment, Voldemort shouted angrily, You idiot, you woke me up just to tell me some horror story. You think you're funny? Not a human? Then what's living upstairs? Quirrell let out a scream. Fire dragon. I think there's a fire dragon living upstairs. Master, I'm serious. After a moment, the pain in Quirrell's body dissipated like a tide. It was a little bit unbelievable. Why was Voldemort's punishment so short this time? Then, he rarely heard Voldemort's voice become a little gentler. Kilo, go to St. Mungo's hospital and buy some potions to replenish your brain and get a good night's sleep. After all, I, Voldemort, am not some devil. If your brain was broken, where would I live now? Quirrell was stunned for a moment. Am I losing my mind? Since the master said so, it must be true. No wonder I suddenly felt like there was a fire dragon living upstairs. It turns out that my brain is going crazy. No, I have to go to St. Mungo's hospital to buy some potions. Oh, if only Hogwarts were open now, I could go to Professor Snape and ask him to prescribe some medicine for my brain. At this time, in the Hogwarts headmaster's office, several Aurors from the Ministry of Magic were politely asking Dumbledore to locate the missing items so that they could go and investigate. Dumbledore readily agreed to this, but when he waved the Elder Wand, his expression changed subtly because in his perception, his positioning spell seemed to be gone. Have all traces of the magic power of those things disappeared from this world? How is this possible? The positioning spells on those things were all added by me personally. As long as they still exist in this world, I can locate them even if they are placed in a box cast with a traceless extension charm. How come it's gone now? Dumbledore still didn't believe it and waved his wand again, but this time the spell was still ineffective. Just like the last time. Noticing Dumbledore's expression and movements, the expressions of several Aurors changed, and they all revealed a tacit look to each other in their hearts. They have great respect for Fudge. I never thought that Minister Fudge, who usually seems to be incompetent, is actually very wise. He is actually a genius. At this moment, Dumbledore looked embarrassed. To be honest, I don't know what happened. The positioning magic seems to have failed. Several Aurors also smiled. It's okay, then we can use other methods to find it. As they left, an Auror couldn't help but turn around and look at Dumbledore deeply. Principal, I think from today on, I really know you. Thank you for teaching me this valuable lesson. Dumbledore looked at the Auror who was leaving, his head full of confusion. No, what did I do? After returning to the Minister of Magic's office, the Aurors could not wait to report the matter to Fudge. For a moment, everyone in the office looked at Fudge with admiration. Minister. Great, brilliant. Dumbledore's acting skills have long been exposed by the Minister. Haha, the positioning magic is ineffective? The positioning magic cast by Dumbledore, even for the you-know-who, it would not be so easy to make it ineffective, right? Could it be possible that this was eaten by some monster and digested and decomposed without leaving any residue? Who are you kidding? The staff looked at Fudge with some fanaticism. Then, Minister, what should we do next? After Fudge pondered for a moment, he remembered what happened to Charles. His eyes flashed and he revealed an expression of confidence and victory. Now that we know that it is Dumbledore who is dealing with us, and we also know that this old bee looks kind but is actually capable of robbing the treasury to balance the accounts and pocketing the money, it will be easy to deal with. If he were a saint, we wouldn't be able to do anything about it, but since he is selfish and materialistic, we might as well take advantage of his selfishness and dig a hole for him. Everyone knows about Charles Evans. The amount of money he claimed was really weird. I was wondering how he took advantage of the loophole in the magic agreement. Now I suddenly figured it out. Dumbledore, it must be him again. With him helping, wouldn't it be easy to crack the Ministry of Magic's magical protocol? Ciel is just a kid, how much can he eat? How could he spend so much money? It must be Dumbledore, the greedy old bee, who is behind this. Just then, an owl flew in from the window and brought a bill from Romania. The amount of the bill was so outrageous that the staff who received it were shocked and couldn't help but exclaim, Grass! 10 fire dragons? Every month. Dumbledore is crazy. Minister, we cannot allow such blatant robbery. Fudge laughed out loud, with a look of disdain on his face. No, we must allow it. If God wants to destroy someone, he must first make him crazy. Dumbledore now dares to use a magical agreement to reimburse 10 dragons per month. What will he do in the future? Ciel hasn't even entered Hogwarts yet, but Dumbledore dares to do this. Once Ciel enters Hogwarts and reaches his territory, Dumbledore will definitely become even crazier. That's when we reveal Dumbledore's true face. As for now, aren't they just 10 fire dragons? As long as we can eliminate the threat of Dumbledore in one fell swoop, the price is worth it. From now on, all reimbursement documents from Charles Evans will be allowed. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49. Why didn't she say that Gringotts was also robbed by Charles? The next day at noon, in the leaky cauldron, a letter from Romania was delivered to Charles' room, clearly marked urgent. Charles couldn't wait to open the letter, and saw the gorgeous letter paper with gold embossed fonts inside. The content of the letter is also very simple. Dear Mr. Charles Evans, a valued partner of Romanian Dragon Farm, it is a great honor to serve you. The 10 dragons you requested are being processed on an expedited basis. They are the Hungarian Hortontail, the Australian Egg White Eye, and the Welsh Green Dragon. They are expected to be delivered by a special person this afternoon. Thank you for your order. We will deliver the materials for 10 fire dragons to you at the same time every month. You have become a gold card VIP of the Romanian Dragon Farm. When you visit Romania in the future, you can use this gold card to enjoy high-quality services throughout Romania. When Charles saw the contents of the letter, he was surprised when he ordered dragons from the Romanian Dragon Farm. He was still worried whether the Ministry of Magic would be able to reimburse such a large bill. In his opinion, even if Fudge could get reimbursed, he would definitely come to find out the truth. But Charles didn't expect that it had been reimbursed. Don't you even ask? Ciel took a deep breath and sighed again. Minister Fudge, you are a good man. You really keep your promise. Just because Fudge reimbursed him, Charles decided that whoever tried to get Fudge out of office would be making things difficult for him. Anyone can step down except Fudge. If Fudge leaves, where will Charles find the reimbursement for the money he needs? While sighing, Charles took out the dragon blood obtained from the Ukrainian iron-bellied fire dragon in Gringotts previously. When completing the magic animagus transformation, almost half of the deep blue dragon magic power was used up, and now there are 4.5 bottles left. It can be seen that in the glass bottle, the dragon blood still maintains an extremely high temperature and is even bubbling. This is a manifestation of the fact that the magic power is still very abundant and the dragon blood is still very fresh. If a period of time passes, the dragon blood will gradually solidify and dry up, losing its bright red luster, and most of its magic power will dissipate. For Charles, this means a significant reduction in deduction points, so he didn't hesitate, uncorked the bottle and poured the boiling dragon's blood into his mouth. After several large bottles of dragon blood were consumed, the deep blue prompt sound began to rise again, and the total number of deduction points began to rise again. Seeing the rate at which the total number of deduction points was rising, Charles's eyes became even happier. This was much faster than he expected. This also shows that the magic power in the Ukrainian Iron Belly Fire Dragon is even beyond Charles's expectations. It seems that the older this magical animal is, the stronger the magic power in its body becomes. Based on this, the deduction points that the 1,000-year-old snake monster can provide may be higher than I expected. Ciel couldn't help but lick his tongue at this time. As these bottles of dragon blood were digested by Shenlin, the total number of Charles' deduction points jumped from 670,000 to 750,000. The anticipation in his eyes grew stronger. A few bottles of Ukrainian Iron Belly's dragon blood provided so many deduction points. Although other fire dragons don't have as much magic power as it does, they are still dragons after all, and the goods I ordered from the dragon farm include more than just dragon blood. They also include dragon meat, dragon hearts, dragon scales, and even dragon feces. After digesting all the materials of these 10 fire dragons, it will be easy for my deduction points to exceed 1 million. Maybe it can soar all the way to more than 1.5 million, adding the fire dragon materials that will be sent from Romania every month. My deduction points should be enough in a short period of time. Thinking of this, Charles was in a good mood and couldn't help humming a song. He planned to eat something seriously and wait for the fire dragon materials to be delivered to his door. At this moment, Charles's gaze turned and fell on a room in the suite. The door of the room was opened, and there was nothing inside. Charles was stunned for a moment, and suddenly remembered that he seemed to have forgotten something after robbing Nocturne Alley. While he was digesting his gains, he tied Tonks up and locked her in the room, and cast a physical stun spell on her. After that, he completely forgot about her, followed Quirrell and Voldemort to rob Gringotts, and studied the magic animagus. It has been almost 3 days, so now, Tonks wasn't in there anymore? Escaped. Charles frowned, but soon relaxed again. Just run away. Although it would be a bit troublesome and might expose Ciel's ability to easily defeat ordinary dark wizards and rob Nocturne Alley, at least Ciel's secrets and trump cards were not seen by Tonks, so the situation would not be too bad. Charles calmed down. It seems that the effect of the physical stun spell is not stable. When you have some spare points, you can invest some in the stunning spell to prevent this from happening again. He looked at the time. The time for Romania to deliver fire dragon materials is approaching. This is what is most important to Charles. He didn't want to miss the best appreciation period of these fire dragon ingredients, otherwise the loss of deduction points would really make his heart bleed. At this time in the Minister of Magic's office, Tonks stumbled in, looking haggard and desperate. The past 3 days have been absolutely nightmare days for Tonks. She swore that even detention in Snape's cellar was nothing compared to these few days. Snape? So gentle, not even worthy of carrying the shoes of that devil Charles Evans. Every minute and every second locked in the room seemed like a century to Tonks, but she never gave up struggling. In addition, Ciel was busy practicing the magic animagus and did not cast any additional spells on the transfiguration ropes on her body. As time passed, Tonks finally broke free from the ropes. Tonks then found an opportunity to escape. Thinking of what happened in the past period of time, Tonks gasped for breath. If she was not strong enough, she would have collapsed and cried. Then, after calming down, Tonks' eyes showed determination. She felt she needed to report everything about Charles Evans to the Ministry of Magic immediately. Tonks began to describe in detail what she had seen and heard about the seal in the office. Fudge and several staff members listened to Tonks' story, and their expressions gradually changed. An aide couldn't help but want to interrupt, but Fudge waved his hand, indicating that they should record Tonks' speech. After Tonks told him everything she had witnessed in Nocturne Alley, Fudge's expression softened. Poor child, strong child, you have worked so hard. Well, now that everything is over, I will prescribe a period of recuperation for you. You can go to St. Mungo's Hospital and recover your strength. Come, I'll have a few Aurors accompany you. Tonks took a deep breath and finally calmed down. She walked out of the minister's office accompanied by several Aurors. At this time, the staff on the side could no longer bear it. Minister, this is sheer nonsense, Fudge sneered. Can I not know? What kind of crazy stuff is she saying? An 11-year-old little wizard who hasn't even started school yet has superb transfiguration skills. He is also so cruel that he loaded the entire Nocturne Alley by himself and planted the dark wizards in the mud like potatoes. Why did she say that Gringotts was also robbed by that little wizard Ciel? Chapter 50. You're so crazy and you still say it's okay? Unforgivable. The staff were even more confused when they heard this. Minister, since you knew she was lying, why didn't you expose her and let her talk? Fudge showed a smug look on his face. Look at you guys, you are so superficial, can't you use your brain to think about it? Tonks's words obviously don't make sense, but do you think she's lying? Not likely. The only explanation is that she's been hit by some powerful confusion spell and can't figure out what the facts are. But first of all, Tonks is an outstanding graduate of Hogwarts and is extremely capable. Besides, she has received Auror training for a period of time. Anti-curse training for confusion spells is the foundation for Aurors. It is impossible for Tonks to be affected by the confusion spell cast by ordinary wizards, let alone a confusion spell of this degree. Tonks actually didn't notice anything was wrong when she said such nonsense. This is really scary when you think about it. Fudge's words made his staff fall into deep thought. Correct. It is indeed terrifying to think about it this way. Who has such a powerful confusion spell? Someone who can plunder Nocturne Alley and plant the dark wizards in the mud like potatoes. Who can possess such a superb skill in transfiguration? Who can make the dark wizards not even dare to have the thought of revenge, but want to worship him, and not care even if their wands are taken away? The next moment, Fudge and his staff said a name in unison. Albus Dumbledore. It's him again. Fudge's face was full of confidence. Tonks must have discovered that it was Dumbledore who was trying to gain wealth while tracking down Ciel, so she was murdered by Dumbledore. Everything fits. You are so good, Dumbledore. You usually pretend to care about your students, but in fact you are cruel and ruthless, and you will use them by any means necessary, putting a confusion charm on Tonks, illegally detaining her, and causing her mental breakdown. As for Ciel, he used him in every possible way. After the truth was discovered, he even used a confusion spell to point everything to Ciel, trying to make Ciel Evans a scapegoat. I thought that Fudge, a politician, was already very shameless, but I didn't expect that Dumbledore, who has a kind face, is even more shameless than me. Fudge picked up the notebook that recorded Tonks's words and smiled again. What is this? This will be the evidence for Dumbledore's trial in the future. Then, Fudge gave an instruction. Tonks has done a great job. Give her a few more days off and treat her well in the psychiatric department of St. Mungo's Hospital. Don't let her suffer any sequelae. Time passed by minute, and in the blink of an eye it was already evening. The delivery date mentioned in the letter from the Romanian dragon farm had long arrived, but there was no sound on Charles' door except for old Tom, who came to deliver the meal after waiting for nearly 2 hours. Charles' expression gradually became gloomy. He didn't know what had happened. It was not until another letter was delivered and Charles saw the contents of the letter that his expression became completely cold as iron. Unprecedented rage flashed in his pupils. The letter was an urgent apology letter sent by a dragon farm in Romania. The reason for the delay in delivery was mentioned here. The goods were snatched after arriving in the UK. Bill Weasley, who was in charge of the delivery, was seriously injured and was being treated in St. Mungo's Hospital. All the materials for the 10 dragons were taken away. The Romanian dragon farm is handling the situation urgently and preparing to reissue fire dragon materials to Charles. However, due to the strict restrictions of the International Wizarding Association on the killing of fire dragons, the 10 fire dragon materials to be reissued to Charles must wait until next month. Ciel clenched his hands tightly. He had been waiting for so long, only to be told he had to wait another month. Wait another month and he'll be going to Hogwarts. Moreover, when it comes to improving strength, if you are slow at one step, then all steps will be slow. The loss of hundreds of thousands of deduction points today will most likely affect Charles' next move, leading to greater losses in the future. Charles can't wait for this batch of fire dragon materials. He wanted to see who was so bold as to steal his dragon. The next moment, a loud bang was heard in the room. In an instant, Charles arrived at St. Mungo's Hospital and walked into the hospital. At this moment, several explosions were heard one after another. Several Aurors paraded here with tongs, taking her to the psychiatric department for treatment since the Auror was injured during the mission. The medical staff of St. Mungo's Hospital were waiting at the door, ready to provide immediate treatment when Tonks appeared. A group of psychiatric doctors and nurses surrounded her. Seeing this scene, Tonks was stunned for a moment before she realized what was going on. She said repeatedly, "I'm mentally fine. I'm just stimulated and my emotions are a little out of control. I'm not crazy. I don't need psychiatric treatment. I just need to rest for a few days and I'll be fine." But her attending physician shook his head with a look of sympathy. "I have already heard from the Ministry of Magic about your situation. You can say something crazy like an 11-year-old wizard who hasn't even started school robbed nocturnally, and you still say you're mentally healthy. Little girl, don't be afraid to seek medical treatment." At this point, Tonks wanted to argue, but she saw Ciel out of the corner of her eye. Charles was approaching her. In an instant, Tonks became excited again. "It's him. He was the one who looted nocturnally. Believe me, I'm telling the truth." The Aurors and medical staff shook their heads without giving Tonks a chance to struggle. Several Aurors subdued Tonks in an instant. The medical staff at the psychiatric department of St. Mungo's Hospital sighed repeatedly. "Look at you. You're so crazy, and you still say there's nothing wrong with you." That was Mr. Charles Evans, the poor boy, who was abducted by a dark wizard not long ago and suffered inhumane torture. How can you say that he robbed nocturnally? This is absolutely ridiculous. If you let this go on, perhaps in your fantasy, it will become that Mr. Charles Evans inhumanely tortured the dark wizard and killed him. The attending physician extended his wand. "I originally thought that you should be treated conservatively. A mild spell is enough. It doesn't seem to work now. We have to increase the dosage." With a flash of light, Tonks, who was still trying to struggle, immediately fell into baby-like sleep. At this time, Ciel walked into St. Mungo's Hospital and came to Bill Weasley's ward. Inside the ward, the Weasley family from the original book are all here. The enthusiastic Mrs. Weasley, the kind and amiable Mr. Weasley, as well as the top students Percy and Ron, the youngest daughter Ginny, and Bill, who had just graduated and started working and was lying on the hospital bed when they saw Charles coming in. Sad and worried looks were cast upon him. Mrs. Weasley was crying uncontrollably, while Mr. Weasley barely controlled his expression, stood up, and asked about Charles' identity if it were any other time. Although Ciel would not have any intention of getting close to the Weasley family, he would not mind exchanging pleasantries, but today, the deduction points that were supposed to be harvested were delayed, his fire dragon materials were constantly losing magic power. And Charles even had murderous intent in his heart. How could he have the mind to greet the realize he came to Bill Weasley's ward just to get clues and retrieve his dragon materials? Where were you robbed? What are the characteristics of the person who robbed you? Charles stared at Bill, who was lying on the bed, already awake but still very weak. Bill was surprised, but he quickly recognized Charles' identity, and a look of guilt and remorse appeared on his face. 10 fire dragon materials were lost, and such a loss could not be recovered even if he sold them as a buyer. Charles suffered a huge loss. Bill whispered. I had just entered the UK and was traveling along the prescribed route for transporting fire dragon materials. But when I was in Cornwall in County, my colleagues turned against me. He attacked me with a few ambushed magical beast hunters and stole all the suitcases containing dragon materials, Charles said coldly. A colleague betrayed me, Converton County. Do you have anything of his? Anything will do. Bill was stunned for a moment, then took out a piece of rag from his pocket with difficulty. I tore this off when I was fighting him. Is this okay? Charles picked up the rag, nodded, and walked out without looking back. Dare to steal his things, dare to make him lose deduction points. Unforgivable, unforgivable. Orange vertical pupils suddenly appeared in Charles' eyes. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.